What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Immortal Minds. Today is a special day because we've got some awesome guests. Of course, we've got Pocket. What is up, Pocket? How you doing?
Dude, I'm so excited for today.
Yes, and we've got Sean as well. Sean, you're back. How you feeling, man? After that first strike
Dude,
shenanigan.
I passed out last night. I got some good sleep finally for the first time in like a week, but that was super exciting. That was probably one of the best weeks of Valorant we've had yet. It has to be the best one, actually. That was amazing.
It was incredible. And Hazed, thank you for joining us as well. It's amazing to have you back. The last episode with you was fantastic. We're so like happy to have you on again.
I appreciate it, man. It's good to be here, especially hanging out with a bunch of cool ass dudes, man.
Yeah, we
Cool.
got Rivington in the chat saying Hazed best beard. I felt like Riv had a
Oh,
great one, but Hazed, how do you feel about the title of best beard in Valorant? Is it true?
that's just not true. I have a lot of rivals. I think Cutler in his prime has the best beard I've ever seen.
Ooh.
Full on
Yeah.
caveman. I could see
It
that.
is full and voluptuous, if I might say.
Oof. I'm very envious of your
Voluminous.
beard. I'm not even capable. It's not possible. So
And that's how we're starting the show. Beard talk, guys. Dan, before we dive into North America, I want to give you and Sean a shout out. You guys seem to be the most loved casters of all time. Congratulations on an epic finals. I know Hazed and the crew made it easy to commentate that. But also, we got to give a shout out to all of our winners. So, First Strike has just finished around the world. And I thought it was amazing. I wasn't working on this project. So, I was able to just wake up, turn on the TV. I had Twitch Valorant set up, and it would just bounce me around from Japan to Korea to Europe, all the way to North America. And the big winners we got to celebrate in EU, it was Heretics over SUMNFC, Summon FC. Like an Orgless squad made it to the finals. Japan, absolute Jupiter dominated as expected. And Vision Strikers have now improved to 47 matches in a row as they took home the big prize in Korea. But today, we're talking all about NA, and we're going to get started from the very beginning today with the TSM crew.
Absolutely, yeah. It's crazy, man. It's when we're thinking about First Strike and we all dialed into North America because obviously we're on the North American region and everything like that, and it's the biggest region, arguably. That's the most competitive. But if you look at like if you zoom out and you see the scope and the scale of this thing, it's such a great it's such a great omen of things to come. Because obviously the whole plan is that this gets all integrated and COVID goes away maybe someday in the future, hopefully, and we get to have these huge lands and really see what this game is like on a global scale. But for now, I think as you mentioned, Summon FC, I think we'll touch on them a little bit as we go through our general thoughts. But let's start there. General thoughts on the First Strike North America. I think Hayes, I want to start with you going into this tournament in terms of like prep and everything like that, and just how the experience was for you guys. What was it like?
I mean, I guess if we're going back to before the qualifiers even started, prepping for that was pretty intense because we weren't really sold on the comp we were running at the time. And that's when we kind of leaned towards trying the triple duelist and going down that road. So yeah, it was definitely a scary time. Scrims weren't going well, but we stuck through and persevered and made it work. We really thought long and hard about the strategies we were trying and just trying to improve them instead of trying to change comps constantly. Because I think that's something teams are doing right now that isn't good. Creates a lot of inconsistency in your play. You need to fix the weakness in your game. Don't try and like band-aid it. You know what I mean? So.
What was the comp
Yeah.
you were running before you made that transition to triple duelist?
We were running, I think just more of a standard comp. It was Cypher and Killjoy, a Sentinel. Sometimes we were running two in practice. We were trying that out. But it was more of a traditional comp that you're seeing teams play, where it's like one or two duelists, a Sentinel, and then the rest are kind of filler. Usually like an initiator or an info gatherer. But yeah, I think going into the First Strike, after or before the first qualifier, that's what we were doing. But then after we got knocked down of the first qualifier, we started looking at other regions and seeing like what they were doing, what was successful over there, and yeah, we were just trying to brainstorm and keep our options open.
when it came to like your practice, because we only got to see a very limited number of games, what were like icebox scrims like? Like what What is that environment like in practice?
Dude, Icebox is so weird. It's at I think that's the map that we're struggling the hardest on, and I think a lot of teams are struggling with trying to figure out what comp is like good on that map. I can't figure it out. When going into it, I thought initially smoke characters were useless. I was like, okay, there's no reason to run a smoke. We should just run 4 duelists and like a Sova.
That would have been gnarly to watch.
I'm dead serious. I really thought that, and then we scrimmed it, and yeah, I changed my mind. I think
We need
I
a smoke.
I changed my mind pretty quick. It's just a weird map to play. You know, characters with elevation changes are really powerful. So like Omen, Jet, Raze are all really good characters on that map, and you could even consider playing all of them. But yeah, it's different than playing CS. You know, like most of us here are CS players, so we're not used to that elevation change, especially happening like very rapidly.
Mhm.
So that map is weird for us. You know, at least for me, it was because I'm used to aiming like head level, you know, on the ground, pre-aiming things very carefully. But you just gotta like flick up and down, left, right. It's crazy, man. Icebox is crazy.
It's a wild world out there. I agree, man.
Oh man,
Us
it's hard.
boomers, we can't play that map. It's a zoomer map.
It was pretty
True.
interesting, like watching people. Well, we only got it twice, I think. Yeah, and
We
the
started the
Immortals
tournament
played it.
with it.
Yeah, Immortals played it. Yeah, you're right. Immortals
That's-
played it, and they went B on their attack like every single round. And I was thinking to myself, either they didn't really prep this map very much, or they just really like going B, and they actually find that you can, it's just so there's so much variance that it's just you can just coin flip enough times to get enough rounds. Maybe
So
and,
yeah.
It was A
Dude,
site, and they literally
was
went
A, yeah.
12 times.
sorry,
It's
yeah.
like all
Yeah.
good. The indoor one, for those who
Yeah.
don't play a ton of Icebox. But they did it 12 times in a row, and I was keeping track. I was like, do they know something I don't? Because they finished that half 5-7. I was like, this doesn't seem to
Dude,
be very successful,
What's
guys.
funny is I saw a tweet. I don't remember who it was from. Maybe from like JC Stoney, their in-game leader. He's like, "Yeah, we did play it. We played scrims on it all the time. We just send it A every round, and it worked so well." So like they would just play scrims and go A every single round, dude. Then they did it in the match, and they just got owned. That's hilarious, actually.
Dude, that is not how you practice, man. Come
I know,
on.
dude. When I read that, I was just like, "Wait, what?" That's so
Give
funny.
Immortals credit. I was surprised they even made it to the First Strike Finals. You know, relatively
Oh,
new
no
team.
way.
Clearly have a lot of things to clean up still. But
Dude,
I was
Immortals
a
are
little
insane.
shocked to see them come out and say we're picking Icebox as our map. We gotta play it.
Yeah. Dude, it seems like an underdog type of thing to do coming into this tournament. I agree with what you wait, who said that? Was it like Hiko? Yeah, I think it was Hiko that said that Sentinels picked Icebox, which seems like an underdog play. I agree, and I think Immortals has such incredible aimers that they should have just like played the default maps and tried to win there. I was shocked when they picked Icebox, actually. That was weird.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that pick.
Do you think
Actually, I was planning on watching that match, and it was like 4 rounds in or 3 rounds in, and I was like, "Man, I'll be right back." I came back and the map was over, and I was like, how did this end in 10 minutes? And they were like, yeah, they just ran it down A every round. I'm like, okay, I didn't miss anything. Never mind.
Yep. It's like, let's just flash a few times and try and outgun them. I was very impressed actually with the way that Envy played on that map, though. If anyone wants to see their attack, I think you can learn a few things about your own game or what you could improve, or just watch FNS's screen. Seemed like he knew what he was doing on that map. Hayes, do we expect to see more Icebox in upcoming tournaments, or is that always going to be just left as map 5? If we have to play it, we'll decide this best of 5 match on it.
Oh no, I mean, I think everyone's starting to get comfortable playing it. You know, like I said, we've been scrimming it. We're not bad on it. It's just more like we're not like 100% certain we're happy with the comp we're running. But I mean, we didn't have a lot of time to prep for Icebox, to be fair. It was only about a week in between the second qualifier and the first strike, and we had 4 days of scrims cancel, I think. So we really didn't get to play Icebox, but maybe 2 or 3 times. So we just weren't really comfortable with
Okay.
it. But moving forward, yeah, I think we're gonna see people play Icebox for sure.
Dude, you said you had scrims canceled. I think I asked you this last time you were on the show, but going into First Strike, were the teams in that playoff bracket playing against each other? Like, were you playing against, Sentinels? Were you playing against
Mm.
100 Thieves in practice?
Well, we did. So the only teams we really scrimmed were teams that weren't in the qualifier. We had initially had scrims set up against people on the other side of the bracket.
Okay.
Uh, Sentinels to be exact, but the unfortunate event of Shazam's father passing away. They had to cancel a lot of scrims, so that makes sense. We're not gonna be upset with them over something like that. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but it is what it is. We're not gonna make excuses. So
Yeah, so it was a really interesting one. I just want to make another quick point about Icebox, but first, thank you, Simon, for the gifted subs, man. We see you. We see you.
Yes.
Thank you very
Simo
much.
lighting it up. We had Taimu dropping subs in here. We've got like every person that was working on the talent side for North America. I saw Veli, Van Silly's in the building. Somebody wake Jordan Fisher up. Tell him we're live right now. But other than that, I feel like we've got the whole crew with us today.
Yeah, the Valorant fam is out. It's something as a point I was actually making earlier. It feels like we have such a tight familial vibe in Valorant right now, and it's such an awesome feeling. And I don't know, it's feels so wholesome. We've got such a wholesome scene right now. But I wanted to make a point about Icebox because we saw all these hits just playing the coin flips and just like contacting one side or the other. And when I saw Envy playing it, and to some lesser extent, I guess as well, 100 Thieves, we saw a mid round or two, and I was like, okay, well, this is actually kind of interesting because there's such long rotation times on the map. It kind of feels like mid rounding should be pretty good. And I felt like Envy were kind of doing that, but they were the only team that were really all that focused on it. Whereas 100 Thieves, they were still pretty heavy on the contacts to kind of put the fear in you, and it seemed like the focus was actually on then slow playing it and then just having Steel lurking and just seeing what Steel could actually come or get from that sort of mid round lull, but it would still end up being some kind of a hit unless he gets something off the lurk. So
Right.
it seems really basic right now. Do we feel like this could be do we feel like the game plans could turn into some heavy mid rounds, or do you feel like most teams are going to stick to this contact style?
I don't know. I think both styles can work. It just depends on the comp you're running. But I think you could do a mid-round type of strategy where you run maybe like Sova and Sky, for example. Just get a ton of information, and that way you can kind of base your mid-round off of that. Um, I, we scrimmed actually on Icebox, one of our few scrims leading up to the tournament. Against 100 Thieves, actually. We played
Okay.
them on Icebox. And the way they approached the map was so different than everyone else that we had played. And I mean, I'll just say it, they throttled us. It was not close. But yeah, their Icebox was really strong. And the way they did it was very methodical. It was like they had two different defaults that they'd run, and Steel would always somehow end up in our spawn. He would be in our where we buy guns, and we're like rotating and getting picked, and we're like,
He's a
how
weasel,
is
man.
he there? It was really frustrating, but yeah, they figured out Icebox really quick, and we're learning a lot from just that one scrim, and I think that's something we're gonna try doing. Is like I said, we steal from everyone. We don't care. If something works, we're gonna take it and try it. And yeah, what they were doing was really strong. I think you could do the mid round stuff, and Hunter Thieves proved that.
Was Steel still running Killjoy in that scrim against you guys? Because I felt like that's all we saw him on throughout the weekend.
No, he played Cypher.
Okay. And is Omen going to be the greatest character on Icebox? Is it Sky? Like, who do you think is going to dominate that map?
Omen's insane. Omen's really, really strong. I would say the strongest character, though. Ooh, that's tough, man. Probably like Viper. I mean, like, it's probably Viper.
All right.
Okay.
All right, man. Okay, moving on. Right.
Everyone should start running Viper in your matchmaking games tonight.
I'm kidding.
Don't do
He's pulling your leg. Right. Well, speaking of strongest characters, you guys actually ran Sky on binds, and we didn't see much Sky. I think we saw Sick running Sky actually as well. I want to say, didn't Sick run Sky? We didn't get very many
Yeah,
Sky.
he did. He did. He would
Yes.
send the
Okay.
birds through mid to like clear it out
Yeah. So
on defense.
what's the deal with Sky? Because did you guys feel like it worked for you in Bind in kind of the way that you thought it would? Because it looked a little underwhelming in the finals on
Yeah,
Bind for
because
you.
you're giving up a Sova pick in place of it. That's the only
Yeah.
like it's not that Sky has no value. It's just oftentimes people are picking
Opportunity
it
cost.
over Sova. It's like, how do you feel about that in hindsight?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Sky personally. On release, I thought she was insane. I think we all agree, right? Like, we all saw the kit and we're like, okay, this character's going to be insane. But after playing her and playing with her on my team, I don't think she's that great. Do I think it's the reason that we lost because we didn't have like Sova instead? I don't think so. We can still run pretty much all the same strats that we run normally. It's you can just interchange the two. What it gives us is more flexibility in how we be aggressive. Whereas with Sova, it's more like I think he's better for an execute based gameplay. And Sky is more like, okay, we're going to go for picks here, and then we're going to rotate off and go for picks here. I think that's what Sky's really good at. So if we didn't, if we didn't win, I don't think it's because we picked Sky. I think it's because we didn't execute properly.
Yeah. What do you think about her ult? I saw no good Sky ults, and I actually saw
Yeah.
like buggy ones. Like I think Cutler popped one inside B site bind, and like the little mushroom dudes like couldn't even get into hookah. Like they couldn't get up there. They were stuck on the ground.
Dude, her ult is so buggy. That's like the number one reason no one should play Sky right now. I played a pug last night on Ascent, and I was playing with Daps. He popped his ult, and he was outside glass at A, and his ult just went up to the glass and just did this back and forth, 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 and then he broke the glass, and it kept doing it. And we're like, dude, what is the point of this ult?
Don't worry, I got it on lock. They can't get up here.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's so funny as well because I mean, maybe not as funny for you guys, but on that Binds game, it was like I think there was this round where we were kind of like setting it up. It's like, okay, they get TSM, have to like find a way back in. Okay, they've got these two ults. They've got I think it's like maybe like a showstopper and the sky ult, and like okay, they're gonna go for it. And you guys are all getting lining up, and they short you pop the sky ult. The paranoia comes through from U-Haul, and then Acidos just comes around the corner, deletes four of you with right after the sky ult with the showstopper, and I'm just like, yep, that feels bad, man.
Yeah, that was just that's like one of those moments where after it happens, you're like, guys, why didn't any of us press tab and see that Raze had ult? Why didn't any of us?
Yeah, that was
press
so
tab?
Oh
lucky.
no.
Like we're all so dumb. Yeah, it was definitely like a forehead moment for sure.
Yeah, that
Dude.
Bind
The
game
idea was
can be rough.
great, minus the rocket.
Yeah, that seemed like a
Yeah.
pivotal moment in that match for sure. Right there, like the ace. Because I think you had their money kind of crushed. Their economy was like in a really rough spot. And that ult was the only thing that was going to break apart that round for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was because the very next round, after we died to it, we got aced. We spawned and we go, let's just do it again. Like they don't have a Raze ult, like it's gonna work.
Yeah, so
We did it again. We won the round like clean. So like the strat was fine. We just timing, not the greatest.
Dan, I saw a question in the chat. Over in Europe, for anyone who's watching the European First Strike tournaments, you noticed a lot of Sage. Lowell was crushing on her. We saw it from a number of teams, though, not just Heretics. So, looking at North America, why are we not running any Sages after the Sentinel tweaks? Are the Sentinels still stronger than Sage in your minds, Sean, Gares, and Hazed? Or would you guys expect to see Sage uptick again in the next few months?
Sean, I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
dude, I actually think Sage is insanely good because on attack, what I find when I watch the game is when you like exec on a site, oftentimes it gets stalled out so long that the rotate comes in. It's like a fucking like 4-on-4 in the site you're hitting. And then there's like some lurk somewhere else and some guy holding the other side of the map. It's like a 4-on-4 in the site you're hitting. But on certain maps, Sage can slow the rotate. like say bind, you could drop a slow in the spawn hall, which is something LoL was doing. So no one can come in the site. So then that gives you like a 4-on-2 in the site, which is very rare in Valorant. And I don't think people know how to play those scenarios fully to its best. And another thing you saw was on bind, LoL would a lot of the times, I mean, this was like old as fuck, but he would wall off elbow. And the meta in Europe, as well as like some of the teams in NA, is to put a Sova at elbow that just shoots a recon behind the smoke at elbow and gets free kills. But the wall is there, so he can't get those free kills. So it kind of disrupts a lot of the meta that's going around. So I see a lot of value in her. And then her res is probably one of the most impactful ults in the game.
Right.
So like you can swing clutches so easily, in which that's something LoL was doing time and time again. He wasn't doing it like in the 5v4 res. It would be in like these 3-on-3s that would look like they were going to go to the other team. They would get a pick, it would turn into a 3-on-2. He would res, and then it would be a 4-on-2, and they would win that round every time. So I think Sage has a lot of value. You just have to structure your gameplay different, similar to how TSM approached their style throughout this bracket, right? Like you wouldn't have thought a triple duelist comp would work, but they're playing a different brand of Valorant compared to all those other teams we saw in North America. And both are viable. It's just, can you put together all the pieces to make it work?
I agree with almost all your points.
Ooh, counter time.
I
Let's
think
go.
you are on track. The one point I did not agree with is the value in her ult. But that was because at the time Brimstone was being played, right? And
Oh
I thought
yeah.
when almost every team was running Brimstone and Sova. And so the problem you run into is, and this is the reason I switched off Sage and I advocated it so strongly when everyone was saying you're dumb for switching off Sage, is because you have Brim and Sova and they just ult the res. And it happens more often than people think, like at a pro level.
Right.
People will just save ult for that.
Bait it out.
So yeah. So that's why I switched off it. But now that Brim is no longer in the meta, I agree that Sage is definitely a character that you should be playing. Not on every map, but I think in particular Split, she's incredibly strong. And I actually advocated for it leading up to this tournament. I told my team, I said, hey, I think we should run Sage. I'm just saying. And we committed to our comp, which I'm okay with. But I still think Sage is strong on that map. I don't think she's good on every map. I think she's actually kind of bad on Haven. As someone who used to play Sage on Haven, I just don't think she's that good. There's too many different like hallways and stuff. Her slow's not valuable on that map, in my opinion. There's too many things you need to slow. Whereas I think on Split, it's very straightforward where you're going to throw your slows. And plus, you want to stop them from getting, because a lot of teams, the way they do execute, especially on Split, is they get up close to like mailroom, especially when they're going B, and then they throw like a flash, and then they just rush it, and then they're trying to get in the site as fast as possible and beat the rotates. But Sage just breaks that completely. So I think that's the hard counter to the current Split meta. As for other maps, I'm sure you can find counters. Like on Bind, teams are like, I can't even tell you how many teams are just rushing up short A.
Right.
And one Sage though breaks their whole strat. And then a lot of these teams don't know how to mid round because all they practice is rushing. So you just win the round automatically. So I think Sage is really powerful.
It's the same thing as like Sentinels was using Brimstone for a long time on Bind. And the reason why it worked was because Zons would just like sit on that molly till the exec, and he would molly off like bathrooms or short A and basically like segment off the hit, right? Like you couldn't go through that side of A. So the hit would become very disjointed. People would come out showers without people in short A, or people would come out short A without people coming out of showers. And the same thing can happen with Sage, right? Like you slow short A, those guys aren't going to run through that slow into the site. So it completely fucks up the timing of the hit. And I honestly think that's Lowell being so good on Sage probably won them that event.
Right. I was thinking about it. Like, is Sick going to go back to Sage after watching LoL? Because what I loved about LoL is you mentioned, Hazed, that you're always pre-aiming at head height, right? Well, the Sage kind of breaks that because LoL was always on his wall or jumping off of his wall or hiding behind his wall. It's just like, it seemed like the man was just playing mind games with his opponents, especially in showers. So I wonder, like, how long does it take for your reflexes to come back to the beta where you're just always expecting the Sage to be up top somewhere or always to be peeking around a corner? Or is this something that is going to continue to cause problems? I hope we see it a little bit more often, but I'm glad that Europe was putting it to use. I didn't see it a ton in Korea, and I didn't see it a ton in Japan. A lot of people seeming to go with the duelist route and just playing very aggro.
But that's
Yeah,
what's so beautiful about this game is that every region is developing their own meta. And I think that is what makes this game so interesting. Everyone, Vision Strikers plays such a unique way, and I love it. We're playing our own style. EU's got their own style. Dude, this game's so sick strategically, man.
Yeah, and it's so interesting too because like with the way that there's going to be so many agents at a certain point, just this game of like opportunity cost is going to get so exciting, and just having to like there's going to be a time when someone pulls out like maybe a really old meta to like deal with something that's quite fresh, that's maybe like a year old or something. It's gonna be really interesting because then you can think back to all there's just so much in terms of storylines and developing the storylines that I think is super fun with this game because of that. And with Sage 2, what was really interesting as well is that there was this element of all of her stuff was so good to begin with that people didn't really look for other answers with Sage. And then when Sage kept getting nerfed, a lot of people stopped using Sage just because of the automatic response of gets nerfed, I will stop playing Sage. But and I don't think we saw a Sage play develop fully as well because it was just I think as that nerf hit where the slow orb radius was reduced, and I think like the you're less slow in it and all of that. That nerf in particular, that was the point when people started to get really creative with setups, like across map setups with the slow orbs. And I think there's like a lot of interesting stuff there that wasn't really experimented with. And on top of that, Sage is, we see how important the early battles are. Like whether it's for hookah control or showers control and bind or like whatever it is, there's early points of map control. Like the slow orbit itself is extremely powerful for stuff like that, and so and there's so many different setups you can do. So yeah, I just love the fact that Sage got nerfed so many times and people were complaining a lot, but you get someone like Lowell's that has this instinct. He's like, I think this can still work, and then goes and proves it. That's just so sick that we have something like that. That there's so many edges you can find in this game that other people might overlook. So yeah, super stoked to see what the future brings with all of that. Do we expect any other changes in terms of maybe NA copying anything from other regions after this first strike finals?
I mean, everyone should. Everyone in NA should be looking at other regions to find stuff that they think's good. I mean, if they weren't doing that already, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, what are they even trying? Like, the whole. I will say that the reason I think Sage is being played though is because she did get nerfed really really hard and she was bad, but then they changed her wall to be like pretty decent again. So I think that helped big time. But yeah, everyone should be looking at other regions for sure. Like, you have to study. You have to. There's no way you can think that like everything. You don't know every strategy. Someone's definitely figured something out. The way Vision Strikers, dude, I couldn't tell you how many
Yeah,
executes we stole from Vision Strikers. We'd watch them, and the way they used Breach to layer these
Yep.
the start of round executes on CT side were insane. We're like, holy crap, these guys are fucking smart.
Dude, they
And
could
so
literally
we
have
just
like
started.
irons playing and they would get like 3 Ks.
Yeah,
They don't even need to be good at the
dude,
game. They're fucking so sick. I
it was
agree
amazing.
completely.
I was just gonna
looking at
bring up
their
that. Yeah.
I was looking at their stats, and I think Breach is their most played agent for Vision
Yeah.
Strikers. So if you guys want to step up your Breach games, go check out what was going down in Korea. What do we say? 47 matches in a row. Are they the best team on the planet, or do you feel they're just not challenged yet, Mr. Hazed? Because we haven't had the opportunity to see international competition. We probably won't until the end of next year.
Look, they're good. Okay. I've started enough drama in this scene. I don't need to start anymore. Okay. Someone else take the mantle. Like, help me out. I'm like the hype man now. Like, what is this, dude?
Good guy, Hazed. I like this. Sean Gares, can you answer this controversial question? Are Vision Strikers the best? Are 100 Thieves the best? Are Heretics the best team on the planet?
I don't know, man. Year is 2021. Vision Strikers is 163-0 in their region. TSM coming over for the Champions Series. They take him out 3-2 in the final.
Oh,
That would be
wait.
so epic, dude.
Oh my god.
These motherfuckers are never gonna lose though until all the regions meet.
That's
But I tell you
true.
what, when they do, it'll be a fluke.
Oh
I
my
can't
god.
wait to see the regions play each other. I can't
Oh.
wait.
Can you imagine that this is the thing that's going to be the hypest moment in Valorant after this like finals? I feel like Vision Strikers versus top of Europe or NA. That's how can you beat that? Who is not going to want to watch that? I feel like that's going to pull
Yeah.
in everyone from every scene in esports. So it's like because it's such an easy storyline. The unbeaten Koreans. It's kind of like this old school thing. You know, like in the old days where we didn't really have many international lands. You'd have like the Russian scene, let's say, that would have like a super sick like TAC FPS scene with loads of really good players and teams, but no one would know like half of the names of these players. It's
Right.
just completely hidden. It's like behind the iron curtain, and then you get they come across, and you finally get that clash between the American like puggier style, more aggressive, better mechanically, versus the more tactical the Russian team or something like that. It's kind of like we're returning to like the old days with that stuff. That was like why the international lands were super hype back in the early 2000s.
I'm so jealous that they got to play at LAN, by the way.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, dude. That'd have been so much fun.
That'd have been sick to watch you guys all at LAN.
Even if there's no crowd, it's still fun.
Yeah.
Just good. Like the energy is so different, Man, I want to play LAN so bad, dude.
Is it about having your opponents in the same room as you, or do you think doing what 100 Thieves did and just getting all 5 guys in the same room, you would be able to recapture a little bit of that magic haze?
When you're in like a team house, yeah, it's not really, or like for them, they're on at a compound. It's definitely not the same. It's just, I mean, like I lived in a team house when I was on CLG, so it's just like, I don't know, it just becomes normal, I guess, when you're next to your teammates. But like the energy is definitely higher. But whenever the other team is in the room with you, that's when it gets real. That's
Got
when
it.
like emotions get going, good and bad, and you start talking. It's
Give
dude,
them a little smirk after the round.
oh man, we tried, dude. I don't even know if I should say this, but we trash talked Envy like playfully, and we used maybe some language that was not um PC, I suppose.
Uh-oh.
And Riot did not like that. Let's just say that we got
you said
you got
playfully. We
scolded?
trash talk Envy playfully.
we got a slap on the wrist for that one. Look,
Well,
there are
somebody's got to
friends.
do it, right? Somebody's got to set the tone here. We're a first-person shooter. Like this is what FPS titles are all about. The Master Chief crouched for a reason. Like you got to have a little bit of bagging in there. You got to have a little bit of trash talk off site. PC talk though, that'll get you in trouble with Riot. You got to watch yourself, Hazed.
Yeah, look, dude, that's just like, they don't know where we come from. At lands, you hear some crazy stuff. That's all I'm saying.
All right, before we move off of just the wider topics, chat wants to know thoughts on viewership because I saw a lot of haters from other titles coming in and mentioning that the numbers weren't explosive. Also, a lot of times, like the Valorant channel itself would only have 250, 450 people, but then you'd have 30,000 watching on a different channel. It seemed like you could be watching the stream on all these different content creators' pages or everywhere else. So I felt like the aggregate number had to be decent. But what did you guys think, DDK and Sean Gares, as casters on this? Were you even worried or looking at the numbers? What did you think about Riot's like first real global event here with First Strike?
Yeah.
I think for me, like,
go ahead. I'll let you go first.
you go,
Shadow.
Sean. Oh my
Okay,
god, what do we do? It's gonna get
What do we
so
do?
awkward.
Okay, I'll go.
Ah.
I'll go. So, I honestly think the way Riot has approached esports in this game is the future, right? So, some people will probably be like, "Oh, there's like only 100K people on the main channel, but there's 120 on Myth's channel or blah blah blah." I think that's the future, right? Having these viewer parties where people can experience not only the main cast, but someone that's kind of pseudo rooting for their team and gives a different flavor to the cast, right? It's kind of like having a Super Bowl party in someone else's house. It's a lot better to do that than have, just sit in your own room and watch it all by yourself, right? It's an experience with someone else. And I really, really like that approach to the esports scene, and I'm perfectly cool with, the main channel having less viewers. The sponsors still get the same shout outs they normally would get. It's
True.
just it's coming from different aggregations of channels. It's very weird, and I think it's a new approach to esports, and I really, really like it.
Yeah, I think I can echo the same sentiments. It only seems to be going really well. I think everyone's loving it. I think it's adding a lot, and I never look at numbers when I'm like working events. I don't know about you guys, but like when I'm commentating and stuff, like I feel like it's just a distraction. Like whether it's good or bad, it's like really it doesn't impact the kind of performance that I want to put out there for the game. So
Yeah.
so I usually end up not looking at it. But it was really good afterwards to see that. I feel like the numbers are pretty like actually pretty awesome, generally speaking. I think it's a great start given the fact that if we consider what we're working with, I think it was a really great start. And I think what's really cool as well is that if you look at that number in contrast to the other numbers that we've had for some of the North American events in particular and the events
Hmm.
around the world. And I think this it's a lot of growth, which means that we are getting a lot of extra eyeballs. And because the event I think itself was pretty fantastic. I think Riot did a really good job with the production. Everything ran really smooth. I think now everyone is going to be thinking that this could be a game that they'd want to consume more of in terms of the esports scene. So I'm hoping that it was a good introduction to a lot of those the new people. If I can get the words out.
Yeah, and to add on to that, like people had a lot of complaints because it wasn't just free reign for anyone to co-stream this event. But Riot sold this is a very different event than the ones that led up to it, right? This is an event run by Riot where they sold sponsorships, and those sponsorships have deliverables. So I'm sure, people like Myth and Ninja and whoever else they greenlit to co-stream this event, they
Hmm.
probably had to meet certain deliverables and show certain sponsors on stream, as well as submit their analytics from all their socials after it's over, right? It's not as easy as just, oh, I'm just going to turn on my stream today and
Right.
watch the match for those guys. They have to do all kind of shit, right? And if Riot let anyone do it, they wouldn't be able to collect all those analytics and sell those sponsors for future events. So this is kind of a unique scenario where I I don't know, because they kinda caught some flack about not allowing co-streaming, and I could
It's
see
just
why, but
people
I
are
also
salty and
yeah.
couldn't get in on it, right? They didn't submit right away, or they weren't doing it for several months now, and so others got priority. I feel like Riot's going to be selective, but as long as you prove that you're a true Valorant fan and you're supporting the scene in a healthy way, that Riot will probably open the doors to more next year. I hope
Yeah.
that's the case. I hope they don't shut this down because, like you said, Sean, this could be the future of esports broadcasting. Is not just the main channel, all of these side channels with the communities chiming in. Speaking of the different regions, though, I wanted to give a shout out. A lot of people are talking production. I felt all of the productions were pretty solid across the board, but Europe being in the studio had a huge advantage for me. And seeing Lothar break things down on the big touch screen, he did an awesome
Ooh,
job as an
so
analyst. And it's like, I can't wait for that moment when we're back in
Oh
person
yeah.
in studios. We can have the analyst more than just a little webcam box, and they can walk you through the plays and walking through you in the live replays. And I think Riot showing us here to close out 2020 of what they kind of envision for the production moving forward. That had me excited as a behind the scenes nerd.
I want to quickly just shout at everyone in the chat. And then I'll add to that point. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This is the most viewership we've ever had. So
Woo
let's see if we can
woo!
get it to 1,000. Feel
Hey,
like we're
let's
pretty close.
go.
Yeah. But yeah, to add to your point, I think it's really interesting this game in terms of like what you have to work with as an analyst. It's gonna be awesome. The kinds of segments you can create and the ways that you can kind of build anticipation for a game or break stuff down. This is one of the things I say to people with the commentary in this game is that everything's so much more like pointed. If there's only one omen, there's only one Sova. If a Sova chooses to use one of his two recon dots that he's going to get in that round, that's important. So it's like there's a greater sense of urgency and importance on every play. I feel like, but in CS, although CS has amazing moments and you can't take anything away from CS as an esport, it's just different. I really like how in contrast because in CS there's a team will default and neither team necessarily knows 100% what's going to be happening. And you as the broadcaster trying to tell the story of the round and allowing people to kind of follow along with you. There are some really advanced stuff that's happening there that's quite naked to the eye and quite hard to really explain in a broadcast. So you kind of just have to go with more general things. But I feel like it's much easier to follow play by play in Valorant just because of the abilities. And so that's something that I think is going to make it super awesome when we get the tech in the studio to really break stuff down. It's going
Yeah.
to be sick.
It's gonna be so sick because yeah, like Dan said, I mean, we notice a lot of things when we're casting, but you can only say so much
God, yeah.
without falling massively behind because things are happening so quick in succession that if I were to sit there harping about a really sick play with like 8 different abilities, I would I would overstep my place in the cast and not allow Dan to, do play by play through like the most insane 1v2 you've ever seen, right? So that's where those teleshooter segments like Lothar was doing. Oh my god, they're gonna be so sick in this game. I loved their AR, by the way, like
Oh
how they
yeah.
had all the agents and stuff. That was so cool.
It's hard enough playing against all these abilities when they're hitting you all at once. Dude, I can't imagine trying to commentate that. I just be like, stuff's happening. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, just
Yeah.
watch.
Dude, sometimes when Dan's commentating, I'm just like, I have no fucking idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. Thank God Dan's here. Thank God. There was one round in the last map. I was kind of mentally out of it that last map. I'm not gonna lie, but there was one round where I confused the teams. I like literally said Wardell was opping B and it was dicey, and I thought fucking Sabrosa was like, or Drone was pushing down mid and it was Asuna. I was like, what am I doing right now?
Dude, it's so hard sometimes. And yeah, the crazy thing about this game is that it's actually for me a lot harder to commentate than CS because, like you said, there's less time and there's always more things to say at any given moment. So you have to like really pick and choose, and it's very hard to do that sometimes without missing out on the next round entirely. And there's so many times when you'd say stuff, and I'm like, I really want to add something here, but is it? And I'm like having this dialogue in my head, is it going to be worth it? Yeah, you could maybe sound pretty smart, but then like this next play is going to happen and you're going to like come in halfway through and it's going to sound shit, like it's really challenging, I think, casting this game and doing all of like the narratives, the macro narrative that we're trying to like weave and Sean, I think one thing you do super well is like the tactical narrative, just like really giving that sense of urgency to that one thing that's happening and then giving like the analytical context behind it. And then on top of that, finding the moments of the play-by-play and the emotional moments. There's a lot going on. It's crazy. This is a very challenging game to cast, which makes it super fun as well. Like I'm really like, as a commentator, very excited about this game because there's so many casting challenges. So yeah, I kind of went off on my own little thing there, but yeah, this game has a great future for sure in terms of the broadcast potential. I don't know, Puckett, is there something that you've seen about this game that's different that you think is that you're like particularly excited about that we didn't already mention, given that we did actually mention most things already, but
Oh,
you're
Mike's
muted.
not working.
wait, he's muted.
Yeah, muted.
Puckett, no!
We lost him.
Yes. Okay. I think I was going over VMix, but you guys couldn't hear me in Discord. My bad. So I think, like you said, the abilities just having 1, 2, or in Breach's case 3, those being so important every round is awesome. But the storylines are what excites me the most. We are all starting fresh. Everyone's coming in from different backgrounds, different games, and rivalries I feel like are just starting. And Hazed, I wanted to ask you about your rivalry now because I was a little upset I didn't get my TSM Sentinels to close out the year. Right, that's kind of what I was hoping for before the event kicked off. After watching a few of the matches, I didn't care who was going to be in that grand finals as long as you guys gave us a great show. And you did that with back-to-back overtimes. Is 100 Thieves now the new rival in North America? Is it still Sentinels for you? Like, who are you most fired up to play against on TSM?
For me personally, I can only speak for myself. It's Sentinels for sure. I think they're still. I mean, God, man, whatever I say is just people. I'm gonna get flamed for this, but like, I realize 100 Thieves won, but I still don't think they're better than us or Sentinels. I really don't think so. I think they're an amazing team, but I just don't think they're better. Like 2 flukes. That's kind of crazy, no?
That's actually crazy. All these flukes, man.
So many flukes.
No, but seriously, guys. I do consider Sentinels to be our rival still. 100 Thieves has definitely shook up the scene. I thought Envy was going to be the ones who did it, and I still think Envy. If people are sleeping on them just because of what happened in the semis, do not sleep on them.
What
That
happened in
team
the
is-
semis? By
Yeah,
the way, for them?
I
What
didn't see
happened
it.
for
It
them?
was pretty quick.
Yeah, so it was just when we scrim them, and even and
Okay.
we played them
Okay.
a lot.
I know where this is
Yeah,
going.
I'm
Go
not.
ahead.
Don't, Sean. Do not do this. Okay, I'm not saying they're scrimmers. Do not. I'm not saying that. Okay, listen. When we play them, usually we're the ones that's getting out rotated. Like they're always 2 steps ahead of us. But when we played them in the match, for whatever reason, they made a lot of mistakes, rotation mistakes in particular. And I'm not gonna lie, our comms were like exceptionally well that day. Color called everything perfectly. Like everything was just going, everything was falling into place. So it was definitely hard for them. But I think they were off their game and they were biting on information that they don't normally bite on. And I don't know why that is. That's something they're gonna have to figure out. But that was not the team we're used to playing. The team we know that they are, that team is crazy good. Because I mean, I'm gonna be honest, in scrims, I thought 100 Thieves was far worse than Envy. I mean, in scrims, 100 Thieves is a team we regularly beat. So we were very comfortable playing against them, but we weren't comfortable playing against 100 Thieves. Ended up playing opposite in the tournament. I mean, to be fair, we were still pretty comfortable against 100 Thieves. We should have 3-0'd them. But Envy is a team that on that day, I feel like they just weren't firing on all cylinders. And for whatever reason, it needs to be addressed moving forward. But yeah, I think they're an insane team. But Sentinels is still, for me, the rival.
Do you think you boomed them with all of your trash talk that Riot scolded you for?
No, dude, no. Because here's the thing. They wanted to say something back, I'm sure, but it got nipped in the bud so fast that they were like, oh, okay, never mind.
One haymaker fight, got it.
Yikes.
All right. With that said, I'm mindful of the time because we actually want to get through the tournament and like go over some of the games and get to the finals and start really digesting what happened in the finals. But let's start off with that quarterfinals discussion, and we can kick things off with TSM and Renegades, and we'll pull up some stats on the screen for that one. TSM and Renegades, Hazed, I think where did I hear you talk about this matchup? I think I heard you. No, it's Tailored. Sorry, I'm confusing you with Tailored. We had Tailored on the show, and he was talking
Your
about this
coach,
matchup, and it was he was saying like Renegades can be a little bit sketchy to play against, but if you're prepared, you should be fine, and that's exactly what happened here. Do you want to just kind of talk us through sort of this game? It was as you can see, a pretty decisive start.
Yeah, as a team, we're incredibly comfortable against. We beat them twice leading up to the main event. I think in the qualifiers, we beat them twice in 2BO3s. Both times went 3 maps, but the only map they beat us on was split both times. And then the other maps weren't very close.
Got it.
So we knew going into this, whenever we saw the maps and split wasn't one of the first 2, I think everyone on the team knew it was going to be 2-0. It's a team we're very, very comfortable against because they just rush. I'll be honest, that their whole game plan is to play aggressive.
And
And
you 11-1 them on Ascent. Was
Yeah.
that just knowing exactly what they're going to do every round? How are you guys so dominant on the defensive side?
Well, we didn't know whether or not they were going to rush A or B in particular, but we just knew that they were going to rush. They were going to do something fast, and that's the style that they've honed. And so we came up with a game plan for both sides of the map. If whichever side they start leaning towards, we'll have an answer. And our game plan worked really well. It was, let them. Their strength is that they want to fight you with all 5 characters utility, whereas you only have maybe 2 on the site. So what you have to do is just not fight them because statistically you're just not going to win that. Like maybe you get 1 or 2 kills, but more often than not you're going to lose those trades. It's just hard to stop 5 abilities. So you just give up the site and then play retake because they have less abilities than you at that point. So you just try and get it. You try to get one of those cheeky smoke kills while they're rushing. Try and get some shock dart kills. Do whatever you can to get little picks and do damage while they're entering the bomb site, but don't try and commit to fights and just play retake. And once you kind of lull them into this like false sense of security of they're just playing retake, then you can start playing on the site and catch them off guard. And yeah, is this a game plan that worked really well against them? And honestly, it works against most teams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there was much to take away from that game. I think that when we talk about the Immortals matchup, I felt kind of similarly about Immortals, that it's a team that's not trying to play the mid round and try to play the rotations. And this is a pretty clear difference when you watch a team like I think like the Immortals Envy game, which we can look at next, is a game where this was a huge contrast for me. It's like a Envy, a team that's got that CS background, finesse at the helm, playing those mid rounds, trying to win with like out positioning your opponent by playing the information game, playing the rotations. And then Immortals were a much more kind of bursty kind of team that didn't seem to be nearly as good in those scenarios. And it seemed like that kind of style is always going to work out a little better, like what Envy were doing. Are Immortals kind of at a barrier in their gameplay without adding in more strategic play? Or where do you think Immortals are at? Because that was pretty easy for Envy as well.
Yeah, I mean, Immortals and Renegades are pretty much the same team in the way they play. Yeah, they
Okay.
they need to develop like uh I think this is where having a good CS background, a high level CS background helps you is because at a high level in CS playing I think the first thing you learn to do is learn how to default properly and you learn how to stay alive, get information and then do something off the information. Um at least from my experience playing that was how it worked. And a lot of these guys I don't know, they're doing it reverse. They're just learning to rush everything and they're not really building that foundation. I feel like as a team you need to build the foundation first.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that seems to make sense to me. Did you guys have anything else to add, Sean? I don't know if, actually don't know if you casted this one. I don't remember who even casted. I casted this one. So maybe did you catch this game?
I did catch this game. So Immortals is a team where like I watch them play, and like they're just so good at this style that they run that I almost wouldn't want them to play a different style, which is weird. I don't know. Whereas Renegades, I think probably should try like a default style. I don't know. Immortals is in a weird spot because they have such good aimers and such their players are better at using their abilities, I think. Like when I watch them, it's like chaotic as fuck, but everyone uses their abilities really, really well when I watch Immortals play. Um I all those players are going to be in the pro scene, I think, in the future. Their team is very, very good. And I think they should have won Ascent. Like actually quite a few clutches went Envy's way. I think like FNS won like a 1-on-4. They won a couple like crazy like man down situations. So I don't know, man. I don't think then at the same time, it's like I don't think that Immortals team was really poised to win the tournament. They're like an upset team because of what you're
Right.
saying. Right?
Yeah.
They could beat anyone, but I doubt they're gonna run all the way through a bracket.
And I
It
think
just
So
seemed like small mistakes were happening a lot, and kind of the bigger brain plays coming in from Envy, Mummy's positioning a lot of the time, or Finesse clutching up at the end of the games. It felt like they just had some holes in their post plants. It seemed like some of their entries would be a great initial burst, but then they struggled when the retake came in. And I think that's just a time thing. The squad just needs to get more games in because, as you said, Sean, shot up's on like the top 5 list for all of the stats coming into the tournament. Like they have that raw talent, they have the aim, they can show you like that they have fragging power, but it doesn't look like they were fully drilled quite yet.
I think on that Ascent game too, there was an element for me where I think Envy made things uncomfortable for themselves by accident because they got into this situation where with the economy change, they saved like a couple guns and kind of put themselves in a situation where they had like 2 or 3 like weird half buys in a row type of thing, and that allowed Immortals to get a pretty a good climb back into the game there and made it look really close. But it felt like when Envy had their full buy rounds, things were pretty consistently under control into that second half. But yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see the development there with Immortals because I completely agree. It's like it feels like their players are so insane, and you just kind of almost want to see them be able to be in the spots that the Envy players are in because they're just so individually insane. But with that said, I don't think I have anything else to add on this quarter. We're about to go into the lower side of the bracket, which is where some really awesome games
Where the
happen.
real
So,
fun was.
yeah, so we can just go straight to that. Sentinels phase that was obviously an interesting one because we didn't know what to expect from Sentinels coming into this, and same with phase. What did you guys think about this matchup?
Yeah, I think when I watch FaZe, I mean, I'll save James from probably saying some fucking mean shit right here, but
What
when
a
I watch
guy.
FaZe, like their players are incredible aimers, fucking insane. Probably like some of the best aimers in the scene. But even on like an individual level, they don't use abilities as well as a team like Immortals, right? I think if I see any of them in aim battles, I have faith that they'll win. But you don't get clean aim battles in this game very often. Like it's very easy to disrupt those aim battles for teams at the top of the scene. Like when they play a team like Sentinels, they're not just going to be able to run up short A behind and like take a fight to a guy heaven. That's not going to happen. Like they're going to be like running through a Molotov or like jumping through a smoke or, blind and spaced all over the place and having to whip back. And they just don't have the layers and ability usage that they need yet. That doesn't mean that I don't think they'll ever get there, but they're when I watched them, I have faith that they'll be at the top of the scene, but and they've improved a lot. They've improved more than probably any other team in the top of the scene, but there's definitely something missing when I watch FaZe.
I think a lot of people give Rocket shit just looking at these numbers too. But you look at Corey's average damage per round and the number of entries he had. Rockets had some incredible blinds throughout this tournament. And for me, I actually felt the X factor was Baby Bay. If you watch Baby Bay in the qualifier, he was hitting those op shots. His op was not on in this matchup. And I think he kind of fell behind early, and that affects his confidence. He's a guy that just rolls with confidence. If you let him start to spiral, he's just going to blow up your team. And we saw that in the Overwatch League. But if he starts to lose those early battles, then he starts to play a little more timid. And it seemed to cause some frustrations, especially on that first map bind. Looking at FaZe Clan, and you've played them, Hazed, like what is the strength of this team and where is the weakness of the squad if you could analyze it?
Yeah, I think Sean was pretty much on point with most of that. I think their strength is for sure is their aim. I mean, if they're confident and they're running at you, it is very hard to stop. They're like a freight train, but their weakness is that if you challenge them in that aggression and you win and you break their confidence, it's what it feels like. At least it feels like you can just break their confidence, and then at that point, the game's over.
Got it.
Yeah, they're man, they will run you over. They are so aggressive. I remember we played them on on a bind once in a scrim. I think we got 12 0'd first half, and we were T side, they were CT, and I swear they were playing CT side like they were T. They were rushing us in our spawn, and I'm like, dude, this is insane. And that's the kind of team, that's the kind of energy that they have. That like, if you don't challenge them early and win, they will run you over.
Dude, it's hilarious watching them play because they don't have that like CS background, right? That all the other top teams have really. And if there's like the spike is planted in a bomb, so it's like a 2-on-2, like a CS team will play the bomb. They'll like hide and like wait till it's tapped. These motherfuckers are just like acting like the spike isn't even planted. They'll just challenge you the entire time.
Yeah,
It's
they don't care.
crazy.
They're fearless, dude.
They're so fearless. And it honestly works because it's so unexpected in these top teams. It's so crazy. I never know what's gonna happen when I watch them.
I think what's weird here is that, and the chat was kind of confused on this. I don't know if they're trolling, but they asked, who's on the Overwatch League or who was? Well, Corey was. He was on Washington. You had Zachary playing for Dallas, Baby Bay with the Shock, and then Rockets down in Houston. So 4 of the 5 guys came from Overwatch. And to see them struggling with abilities when they come from a game that was basically built on abilities kind of blows my mind. I think that's something that you can definitely be drilled on, and you can improve as a squad. And I hope to see it from them soon, because I was expecting the Sentinels match to be a little bit closer, but it's a tough first round matchup to go up against Sentinels in the quarters there.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not too keen on Overwatch, but like I don't know how often you're supposed to use your abilities for like your teammates. Like, is that normal?
So a lot of these guys, like Raucus was a pure support player. He was only healing his teammates and using abilities to counter the enemies with his Ana grenades or to heal up his teammates with it. His sleep dart, of course, to save teammates. So Raucus is purely that guy to make someone else look good. Baby Bay was like a star sniper, so he didn't have to use his abilities other than his movement a lot, or he'd play Tracer. Zach was definitely more of a support player, and Corey was also like Baby Bay, just hardcore damage dealing fragger, where You use your abilities, but very aggressively for yourself. So I feel like Corey on Raze is the perfect character for him.
Did they ever have to like layer abilities? Like, were there any like strategies where you like layered abilities to attack something, or
All the time, almost
all the
every team
time?
fight.
Okay,
Yeah.
well that's weird then, because I feel like that was like something you learned from Counter Strike, is learning how to like layer your grenades to
I
hit a
think it was
site.
more reactive than coming up with the strat going in, though.
Okay,
So that's probably the biggest difference in my eyes.
okay, yeah.
Dude, are
All
those
right.
stats real? Ruckus actually went 1-14 with 12 damage around that game. I didn't.
Sean.
Oh no, Sean.
That can't
T1
be
Mobile couldn't
real.
read that.
That's crazy, actually.
Sean.
Wow, that's rough because that guy's actually good as fuck. I'm not joking. I've watched him play. He used to be like the jet main on that team, but then Baby Bay took that over.
Mhm.
That's kind of crazy.
Damn.
He had a rough series, man.
That is
did.
rough. We won't punish him any longer. We can move on to the last
Sorry,
quarterfinal
Rockets.
game.
Love you, buddy.
And 100 Thieves and T1. This was an insane game. Like going into this one, you got 100 Thieves who's just getting better every like single game that they play and looking super good. And you got T1 who's also looking extremely good. Like it actually works, the lineup. And going into the beginning of this game, that Haven, you got Scar flying around with the blade storms, hitting every dagger, hitting all the operator shots. It seems like he's coming into his own. Oh man, this was an insane game. I felt like 100 Thieves that actually T1 may have been the better team this game, but they just won more clutches. It felt so close.
This was the second best match of the entire weekend for me. I thought this one was incredible.
Yeah, it was definitely a good match. I thought T1 was actually going to win going into it.
Yeah.
That was my prediction. I don't know, like strategically, they're hard to play against, and I thought I also thought it was going to be a juice matchup. I mean, Steel versus Daze, that's kind of
Yeah.
sick, but I thought Daze would get the better of him in this, but he did. Both teams played phenomenal match. I agree.
It was crazy to see that. Like at first, I'm like, oh my god, T1 is playing so well. My mind is blown at this improvement. And then I'm seeing 100 Thieves like giving them an insane game, and I'm like, what is happening in this matchup? This was a really insane one. It's Sean, when you were casting this one with me, did you have any like major takeaways from from that first Haven game?
Dude, it just felt like everything went 100 Thieves' way. Like
Mm.
if we were doing like coin flips, in the clutch scenarios, it was like it landed heads 10 times in a row, it felt like. Right? Like it was crazy. Even from like the pistol round where Eco stuck that defuse and Dazed is like lining up shock darts instead of peeking in, and like there's just so many little weird scenarios that fell in 100 Thieves' favor. And that's why when the series ended, even though it was 2, I was like, that shit was 50-50. Like that could have easily gone the other way. I
Run it
think
back.
T1 fell apart on Haven. I don't really remember Bind all that much. I think 100 Thieves probably looked better on Bind, but
It was like a lot of like heavy shower stuff from both teams. A lot of shower stuff. That's what I
Yeah.
mostly remember here. And again, it felt like what you just described for Haven. It actually felt quite similar for Bind as well. It felt like obviously 100 Thieves, I think it's one of their better maps, but it seemed like T1 had a lot of like pretty good answers for ways to counter it, but they were just not winning some of those important clutches. Hiko is like, it's actually so insane that Hiko played as well as he did in this tournament. And what's kind of cool is that it adds this dimension to this game. Because I think, Sean, you were mentioning to me as well, like, it's crazy how many of these like ex-pro content creators are like doing so well. And it's interesting because going to that tweet that you said, I think it was a tweet that you made, Hazed, or like something that you said, but basically that this game is like, there's a lower mechanical ceiling, but strategically, this game is like so much more impressive in certain ways. It demands so much more from every player. And it feels like players like Hiko, he's just in his perfect game. It's like, is all Boomerang is not going to get as affected by this game. He's got a super high sense, so he can turn from the million flashes. And on top of that, he's got the most experience clutching in the game.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it's so perfect for him.
I completely agree. I think Hiko is probably the main reason they won this tournament. I mean, he won so many key rounds in both the T1 match and our match. I mean, their whole team plays well in clutches. They have a lot of experience over there, so they're hard to play against. But I would say the clutch factor is like really those like 1v1, 2v1, 1v2 situations like that. That's where they shine.
Where's
Steel's
Hiko?
really
Sorry, where's Hiko at his most dangerous? Do you like seeing him on Sova? Do you like seeing him on Raze? Because he was kind of switching up the agents throughout this tournament.
He's definitely scarier on Sova, I would say. I don't think he on Raze he's okay. I'm scared. I'm more scared of Razes that are like these like young aggressive players
Double
because
blast packing in.
yeah, they're unpredictable. They're crazy. They just do crazy things and it works. Whereas like Hiko isn't really like that. He's more of a methodical player. Race doesn't really seem like it fits him. But Sova's very much up his alley, and he has crazy shock dart lineups. It's really annoying.
yeah, it's honestly like really crazy just how many I think from Nitro and Steel as well. Like Asuna and Dicey did the things you'd expect them to do, knowing them. I mean, Asuna, I think, really impressed that he was able to carry his performance through all the way to the finals and just be as good as he was the whole time. That's impressive as a youngster. But like some of the stuff that Steel, like some of the setups that Steel created, like there's that obviously that amazing like clutch play between Steel and Nitro, with the Cypher like Trip and Cage and Cam and so on in the garage position on Haven, and he's got Nitro up on the box behind him.
Mhm.
And just like Steel had so many cool little Cypher setups, and on top of that, like he just had so many good timings as well. And he is fragging very, very well. And this is something I think people didn't necessarily understand about him because from CS is that like in his heyday in CS, he was like mechanically extremely good, extremely top tier. And it's very cool to see that he's able to innovate in so many ways with Cypher and pulling out Cypher in lots of ways that people aren't using him. And then Nitro in that Haven game as well found so many ridiculous timings on the flank that I have never seen. So there's something special about this 100 Thieves lineup in this tournament at least. I don't know if it's like something that you can study them and then be like is this like the stuff they're pulling out Hazed. Is it stuff that's just like the quality of them as players reading the game really well on the fly, or is some of this stuff that you can go back to and like look at the demos and be like, okay, I can kind of see how to prepare for this a bit better next time?
I think it's a mix of both. They're just a well-rounded team. They're much like us in that we have experienced players and then like some players that are relatively new. Maybe not as new as some of the players on their team. Like Dicey and Asuna are basically had no pro experience. Whereas our team, all of our, I guess you call newer players have still had experience already. But yeah, they just have like a good mix of like raw talent, experience, good intuition. And I think they're just a team that you can study them and you can come up with ways, you can see the nuance in their play and figure out ways to, maybe counter something very specific, but they're going to adjust because they have that experience. And even if you get the advantage early in a round, the round's not over because they have so many good players on that team. Yeah, they're hard to play against.
It's awesome to see, and I think I want to move this through the semis now pretty quick because I do want us to kind of get our teeth into the finals and have enough time. So I'm
For
a
sure.
little bit aware of that time. So let's blast through the semis. Let's talk about TSM and Envy first of all. Number one seed Envy looking really strong, and I actually had them. I felt like they may have edged you guys out actually over this, given how they'd played up until that point. But you guys made quick work of this.
Yeah, it was pretty. Honestly, it shouldn't have been that easy, but it was. I got to throw a little shade on my boys. They're my boys. I didn't want to play them in the semis. I wanted to play them in the finals, but the brackets, played out how they did. It's never fun beating them, but we're competitors. It's what we gotta do. But yeah, they came out cold, and I mean, we knew how they played. I think they're the team we probably scrimmed the most. I would say. I think Envy's probably the team we scrimmed the most, and we're very comfortable playing against them. They're very comfortable playing against us. But I got to be honest, we did not expect this.
I'm watching some highlights of Wardell doing a little tactical crouching here. Seems like there's a little in-game trash talk. Is there anyone that you felt you could target particularly? Like, were you guys going for first picks against the same agent throughout this, or was it just better strategy, or what was the difference maker in this matchup?
And before you answer that, Hazed, 1K hype,
1K hype.
What's up?
Poke champ
We
in the
did it!
chat. Let's go. Thank you
1K
everyone for
boys.
getting us to 1K. All right, Hayes, now you can answer the question.
No, we didn't really target anyone in particular. No, it was just, we had our game plan that we talked about going into the match, and we just it was a matter of execution. And then on top of that, they like I mentioned earlier, they played in such a way that they were rotating way more than they normally do, and that we felt like that was something an inexperienced team would play like, and so we were shocked that they were giving us some of these rounds. We walked into a bomb site, I think, on multiple occasions on Ascent where no one was there, and we're just like, how? Like, this is not the envy we normally place. So, yeah, I mean, they just weren't on their game that day, man.
And you guys, I think, put them in a tough economic spot throughout this entire game, just constantly putting them on the back foot. So it just seemed they couldn't get any momentum. Is Envy still a top 3 team in your eyes? Where would you rank them?
That's tough. I don't know where I'd rank them right now. I think the top 4 is, I mean, it's pretty crazy, because 100 Thieves obviously beat Sentinels and us on their way to winning, and then Envy beat the hell out of them, and then Sentinels has shown historically that they can beat any of us. So I think like the top 4 is just really jumbled right now. I couldn't tell you.
Where does
Sure.
Anbox fit in all this? Because people,
Ooh.
I mean, a lot of the pros said like, with Poach, they probably would have made first strike. Are they like top 5? Because I don't know much about them, but I mean, the community seems to be very hype on Anbox.
Oh yeah, they're fringe. They're like they're there. Dude, that's a team we don't really scrim, so it's hard for me to gauge them. For whatever reason, we just don't really have scrims against them. So I don't know the level that they're at, but from what I've seen from some of their matches, they seem very good.
Yeah.
And I know, we know those players from Counter-Strike, so they have the skill. I play against them in pugs, and sometimes I'm like, dude, there is no chance. This is like when you play against Ye and Android
Yep.
in a pug, they will both have 30 kills, and you're like, this team cannot lose. They cannot lose. But, yeah, we just don't really play them, but they seem like they've got what it takes to break it into the top
And
5.
Boy is an awesome Raze to watch as well. I've been watching a lot of his stream. I think he plays on the highest sensitivity of anyone I've seen in Valorant yet. Anbox, though, I felt like they played with their coach, right? Because Poach couldn't participate in the last qualifier.
Yeah,
If they were
correct.
in this, where would they get an upset?
Ooh.
That's
the thing.
So
is like,
we'll talk more about
I don't know.
Anbox. Dan, I know we got time constraints here, so we should probably keep
Okay.
moving on to the other
Okay.
semifinals. But I definitely want to hit that team in the future. We just need to see more footage of them playing as the full 5-man roster.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, with that said, what was the other one? The other semi. It was 100 Thieves and Sentinels, of course. And that was again, I think just like the T1 game. Oh my god, this was another game where it's just like it really felt like it could have gone either way. It actually felt like both teams were as good as each other, and it came down to some of the clutches. And Sentinels, I mean, I usually always will edge them in that kind of a matchup, but 100 Thieves just brought some new magic into this to shake it up.
Yeah, dude, the end of the first half of Bind, like, do you remember how that played out? Bind, it was like 50-50, right? I think I'm looking at the scoreboard right now. So Sentinels were up 4-3 on Bind. I think they were on attack side of Bind, and then 100 Thieves won the last 5 rounds of that half. But those 5 rounds were like 4-on-2, 3-on-2, 1v2. It was like everything went their way on those last 5 rounds of the Bind match, and I don't think Sentinels ever recovered. But that was so rare, seeing Sentinels fall apart like that. That was weird to see.
Yeah, and it seems like that's a narrative that keeps being like brought up about 100 Thieves. And at some point, and the narrative is that like they always seem to like get luckier, like they get these like these really sick late round wins. But it's like, at what point is it no longer luck? They're doing it so often.
Yeah.
that it's like, you can't get lucky that many times in a row.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, that's their prime is whenever it's late round, it's not a 5v5. That's when 100 Thieves is their best, and they will pick teams apart. And even a team like Sentinels, who's been winning a lot and has been very consistent, they got picked apart, and it shows that every team has weaknesses.
I think the
Ye-
chat pointed out Steel Unbind was a monster as well. Steel had some really strong games, and this was one of his strong series.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna point him out as well. That's good that you bring him up, Puckett, because there was 2 rounds, I think, on that attack side where Steel literally just like walked into the A site and caught Zoms. I think once in U-Haul, he walked up short A, and then once he walked out of showers. And those are just game swinging moments, like that an individual player is just getting a pick on one of the 2 players playing the A site. And then that causes the mid game rotation back to A. It's free. And I mean, it's crazy that he was able to find those windows. It reminded me of like Get Right in 2013, at the
Mhm.
start of the game, finding all those windows and openings. I don't think those are going to be there like in the future, but that's fucking insane that he found them here. It's crazy.
I wanted to
Yeah, I
ask about the operator, Hayes. Do you think
Ooh.
that the op changes had a big effect on the overall way teams were playing in First Strike? Can you still dominate with the op? Because it seems like Wardell, as good as he is, didn't seem to be at his peak anymore. And Sentinels was always a team that, they would run the op when they wanted to, but they were very comfortable on 5 rifles. So I thought this was going to be a meta that they should dominate.
Yeah, I mean, the op change has definitely affected all the oppers. I think mainly the price has been the big difference. It's made it very difficult to that first gun round to have an op. So it's really lowered the value in it. You know, before the op nerf, yeah, the thing is, Matt could or Wardell could just take over a game because it was so easily accessible, and it's not like people had this narrative of like what they're doing with C9, where they say Tents and Friends, it was like Wardell and Friends. It's not that we're not contributing or pulling our weight. It was that the op was so accessible and so strong on a character like Jet that it was almost oppressive. And they would just take over games completely. They didn't need a team because they could just do it on their own. That didn't mean they didn't have a team behind them. And that was what was happening with a lot of teams. But now that the op got nerfed, it kind of put everyone back into place, and they had to start filling roles other than just going crazy and getting a bunch of kills. They have to start thinking about their setups, how they're going to react, because sometimes they're not going to have ops. They're going to have to rifle. They just don't have the money. So it definitely changed the dynamic for a lot of teams. It changed the dynamic for us. We were actually very comfortable with the change when it happened. Matt was very happy about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because he believed his rifle, and I actually believe it too. His rifle is insane, but he believed his rifle was on par with any other pro player, and that every other opper in North America was going to suffer because of it, because their rifles wasn't as good as his. So we were super confident when that nerf came through, and everyone was trashing us on Twitter, on the forums. They're saying,
Haters.
"Oh no, TSM's dead." Nah, 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 nah. Y'all are fools. It's okay.
It's all good. Yeah, it's definitely been really awesome to see the adaptation from your team. I think that was something that I had like a big question mark in my head off of some of the initial success. But I think you guys have proven time and again you've been able to not be like one tricks, and you've been able to innovate where needed and make it work for your team, which is like that's the biggest thing. And also teams have failed to do that. Like I think it's almost made. I think if people don't really think about it too much, you just see stuff that works. So it's hard to understand what it takes to actually make stuff work with 5 players, because you get so many options in this game too in terms of like play styles for different players. So it feels like every team is just is its own unique thing because of that. So it's an interesting one. The public perception though is always fun to see what people are saying. But
Fun. Not the word I'd use sometimes.
Fun. Very fun, Hazed.
Are we ready to move on to the finals?
Let's do it. I just want to mention though, if you guys want to watch probably the best icebox from the event, it might have been this matchup. You guys can go check out the VODs. It was overtime from Sentinels and 100 Thieves, and I was definitely surprised by how fun it could be to watch icebox after opening the event on that map.
Absolutely. Right. I think we have a quick word first from our sponsors, but then we're going to get through onto that finals discussion with the VODs.
My heart is racing right now, dude.
Woo! We got a 50 times one. Another bonus.
Boom!
I love how pretty it is.
Ignition, and it's good. It's very good.
All right, guys. So we've talked about a lot of stuff so far about First Strike, but there's definitely some moments in these finals that I really want to go over. But before we do that, in terms of getting into this finals, Hazed, you had like not a long time to prepare for this, and you did have some matchup history with 100 Thieves. So what was the expectation going into this? Did you have like a confident game plan? I presume you must have done. I doubt you're going to be like, nah, we were really nervous and had a really terrible game plan. So, whatever. But I'll let you just answer the question anyway.
Yeah, we had a game plan. A team where, like I said, we were comfortable playing against. We played against them plenty. I mean, they definitely surprised us with the fact that I didn't expect them to beat T1. I didn't expect them to beat Sentinels. So clearly, I undervalued where they were at, and I have to hold that. That's fine. I could admit it. But yeah, so we didn't take them lightly going into the final, but we were still confident that we were going to win. So we came up with a game plan for not every map, but most of the maps, because we didn't have a lot of information on some of them. But I'm sorry if you can hear that. That is loud.
No, you're good.
But yeah, so the problem we ran into going into it was that we created a game plan, but in some cases it didn't follow what we had practiced. And so at that point, it became very hard for us to, figure out what the best course was. Do we continue with the game plan if it's not working and go back to our old stuff or not? Or just, continue. We weren't sure what we should do, but that's when we had to take some pauses. And after map one, we talked a little bit and, tried to figure it out. But yeah, we definitely had a game plan going into it.
Did it work as expected, or was it? Did you lose faith at some point? Did you have to kind of adapt out, or how did it actually end up in a practical sense?
Yeah, the game plan. Obviously, I won't go into detail on it, but it was just, it didn't necessarily work the way we thought it would, and because it deviated so strongly from what we had practiced, that we felt like if we'd have just done what we practiced, it probably would have worked fine, or better. So, and sometimes that's going to happen. Sometimes the game plan you come up with works flawlessly, and you just own. That happened against Envy, for example. We played our game plan, and it was perfect. But our game plan against 100 Thieves just didn't work, and I think that's where having a lot of experience comes in. Where you have to kind of just sit down and say to yourself, like, what went wrong? Was it what we came up with? Were we not executing properly? Are we just like emotionally not in the right state? You got to try and figure these things out.
Okay.
So I'm curious what your thoughts are on like hindsight. So Sabrosa had so much success opening up rounds throughout the bracket previously, but in the finals, his stats on First Bloods were like 11 and 19. But with that being said, everyone on 100 Thieves was negative in First Bloods or even, besides Dicey, who was 9 and 8. Asuna was like 18 and 18. But like you guys won the First Bloods throughout that tournament 49 to 43. But like what happened to Sabrosa? Because he had so much success throughout the rest of the tournament. So I'm curious if like 100 Thieves did something in your eyes to neutralize him.
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I haven't really talked to him about that in particular. We talked after the match, obviously, on what we thought went wrong, but we didn't like go into player specifics or anything. Sometimes you just the stuff you do works against one team, doesn't work against another.
Yeah.
Whether he got countered, I don't know. I think that's something he would have to tell you. But all I can tell you is he played his game that he normally plays, and it didn't work to the level that we saw previously in the tournament, but it still worked fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's I want to throw something in there because let's get some of the match going in the background here. I've
There
got
we go.
I've got a particular clip for you. This is map one. This is split,
Uh-oh.
and I'm sorry that you'll have to relive this. Hazed,
No, don't do it
but
to him.
but this is the rounds where we see a thrifty
Oh,
win.
yeah.
Your everything was going really well. So I wanted to get your take on this because I felt like we were saying on the broadcast that this was the momentum off of this from what Steel did in this round and the next was really huge. And you got into a pretty favorable position, but there was just like that one kind of overlooked spot. Do you,
Uh,
what was going on?
God. Okay, so I don't really know what had happened. I haven't actually seen the VOD of this yet because for
This
the
is so bizarre.
on these strats, I'm typically not there. So I don't know what's happening in the bomb site. I think this was a rare instance of nerves. It's not something that we normally have, but I felt like we were pretty timid in this match. We weren't really committing to things that we'd normally commit on. We weren't being aggressive. Our comms were kind of off, and I felt like we were playing nervous. If I'm just gonna be honest,
Okay.
and that's something that usually doesn't happen. So, yeah, this round, I know that I was in TeamSpeak and some other players were talking about it, and I just I didn't even want to listen at the time. I was like, I don't know what happened. I don't want to do a review right now. I'm not happy, so I just didn't listen. But yeah, at some point we'll review it as a team and see what went wrong. But I think it was nerves.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those spots where like we were watching and we were looking at Steel, and it's just this one spot where like this he could actually win this round from this position, and he had the lockdown, and he had the alarm, but everything was perfect, and it just seemed like this was the spot where they got it. I actually feel like when I was watching this, I can totally understand why that's like an overlooked position, given everything that had happened. But yeah, that was definitely the moment when they started to come back, and then this next round as well was one that was particularly difficult.
Well,
Sorry to spring the VOD review on you, but
no, it's fine. It's fine. I will say that on that round in particular, we did have like a pretty severe miscomm, if I remember correctly.
Mm,
Drone, drone wasn't supposed to go down ropes, but the way we calmed it made him think he was supposed to.
Gotcha.
uh,
And so he moved on it because we didn't say someone's name specifically. And so that ended up getting him killed. Like it was one of those moments that you look back and you're like, all you had to do is all we had to do is say someone's name and be more specific. And it's like that one moment that really messes it up. But to be fair, it's not his fault. It's the team's fault because we shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. The round should have we should have won the round clean 5-0. And
and this
that's how I think of it. So
yeah, and then this was another great spot for you guys on the following rounds. You get the 5v4, you've got the run it back. I think was it run it back to open this up, but either way, you're able to kind of take the site. You force everybody out because it's the Brozer with the showstopper, and then it's Steel again here that creates
Little
like a
rat
moment.
man.
And it's this play from here. Like I don't think at this point anything has gone wrong for you guys, and I don't even know if you could have done anything better in this round. But
this
Steel is
is
just a god in this spot.
this is another. Yeah, I mean, the name of the game is miscommunication, man. Like, or nerves or something, because we knew he had ult, and we had said going into this round that wherever we go, he's going to go for an ult retake, and we think it's probably going to play retake B. So if we go B, we should push spawn. The only person who pushed spawn, as we saw in the clip, is Yassine. So that was just like one of those moments where either someone didn't hear the call or they didn't act on it because they were unsure because of nerves or whatever reason. But yeah, we definitely had a game plan for this, and then we just didn't follow it. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, that
seemed
was
to be
that was hard to watch. I actually didn't remember all of those things happening like that. Like how Yassine pushes in, he does get someone, but obviously he doesn't clear the left. Steel kills him, and then Drone goes in as well and has the same fate. And then Wardell doesn't realize that Cutler has an aftershock to get Steel off the bomb, so he dies. And then Cutler pops his ult like a second late. Like so many things just went wrong in the span of like 10 seconds. It's
Yeah.
actually crazy.
Yeah, this game is so insane for that. Just how that snowballed. It's really unfortunate. And are there any other? Because it seemed like you guys, as you said, like had a pretty good like awareness of when the alt economy and everything. Obviously, they were playing. Like Under Thieves were playing pretty heavily to like stack as many lockdowns as possible on Steel. And every single time there was like a round where Steel was gonna get the lockdown, you guys knew about it, and you'd have like more. You'd give up the sites, you play more retake and more heavy mid, which I thought was that's just like such a good rule of thumb adjustment against that. But yeah, it's these moments. It's just some of these moments. I think otherwise you guys played such a good split against
Yeah, you
them.
did.
Yeah, it's the worst part, honestly, is I realized last night that the first round of the entire series is the only pistol we won.
Yeah, you guys
went
went
1-7, right?
Chat,
I have some
chat was
stats
talking
actually.
about that.
Yeah, you
Really?
went 1 for 7 on pistols, but your total frags, you had 324 in the series, and 100 Thieves had 316. You out-fragged them in the series. Clutches throughout the
Yeah.
entire series. You had 4, they had 8. Hiko had 7 all by himself.
Yeah.
4 1-on-1s, 3 1-on-2s.
Oh my god.
Like, fucking incredible. You guys had 49 first bloods. They had 43. Like, all of the stats kind of favor you, but these late round plays and like that Thrifty in particular, and then this round on split, they had all of those swing moments go their way.
Yeah.
That's why this series was just so insane to me.
It
was actually epic.
I also think something they did that was better than pretty much every other team we played is how well they use stinger buys. They they ecoed us 7 times that in that series, and it was all because of like these stinger buys that they were doing, and they just rolled us.
Who's the most
it's crazy.
frustrating player on 100 Thieves to play against? Like, who is the guy that was always in a position that you weren't expecting or throwing you off? Because I know Steel, when we had Nitro on the show, Steel kind of took pride in playing like a rat, was the self-described play style at times. And I could see a few of those as the observers caught it. But was there anyone else on the field that was causing issues for you, Hazed?
I mean, I'd say it's Steel and Hiko for us were the hardest to play against in that series. I mean, statistically, I think Asuna was their best player, wasn't he? I don't remember.
Yes, I want to say so.
I think
at least
Hiko was
in the
he
final play.
was.
I think Hiko might have ended up edging him out at the end.
Oh,
Maybe.
But
it's real close though between those two.
But either way, like in terms of like in game and the pressure you felt from the players, we felt like, at least for me, it felt like Hiko and Steel were like the guys that were causing the most problems for us. And we knew going into it that Steel was going to cause a lot of problems for us in particular. Just from the way he played in scrims, and we saw the way he was playing in matches. He's, as he self-proclaimed rat, he plays in such a way that makes you upset, and he's trying to get you angry, and it works against most people. And there are times it works against us. Like sometimes I'll die to Steel, and I'm like, you do not deserve anything. I get so mad. And I just start, I just start ripping into him. But I mean, he's a good player. He knows what he's doing.
You just reminded me there was this one other Steel round on a split where he was like playing Killjoy defense, sat in the corner, like his team stacked 4 on A or something, and he was in the corner, like where you see Nitro right now, like with the pistol, and he got fault lined. All of you ran past, no one checked it, even though he got fault lined, and he still got a kill with a pistol whilst he was fault lined because
and Molly
it's
killed
just
someone
insane.
else.
And and that actually was what ended up stacking the odds against you for them to win that round as well. So
it felt like he was messing with Wardell as well. Wardell was often opping down into the B orb, and Steel was just peeking him and then ego challenging with the Vandal, and he won a few of them. But it seemed like he was just purposely like, while the rest of the team was off on a plan or on a mission, he was just going to be there every round and consistently annoy Wardell.
Yeah, that's his goal. He's always the backup plan. He's always the back. They have something in mind, and they have a second option if the first option doesn't work, and that's why they're frustrating to play against. Because if you think you won the round, you're wrong. They're gonna backstab you, and so you can't ever commit to anything with them. You have to play the map and trust your teammates to hit their shots. And if they don't hit their shots, the round gets really difficult. But as long as you win your duels, you can beat that team.
So, so let's go to Bind then, because I feel like we're talking about Steel, and I think that for me on Bind, especially on the attack, he was a particularly problematic player because he's really good at finding those timings up A short or out showers after like really there was this mistake that I feel like Sentinels made against 100 Thieves that I feel like you guys didn't make, and so I'm really curious on your thoughts on this. It felt like the default with from 100 Thieves was really hookah heavy, and Sentinels started to feel like they had to commit an extra player at the beginning of the rounds towards B, so they're playing that 3B 2A setup, and then it created all these timings in the early rounds where Steel could lurk out showers or up A short, and he like got free kills or got gained so much ground that it just created huge problems, and he's able to exploit that. You guys didn't make that move. Like you kept 3 on A a lot of the time and didn't over respect them. And I felt like that was the adjustment that Sentinel should have made. What is it like playing against that kind of style? Because it looks very difficult to deal with, especially the way that they were playing hookah.
Yeah, I think it's becoming the norm to play 3A because of this. It's just very hard to hold these like fast A executes on a spawn with only 2 people. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, it's just impossible. You have to get really lucky. So you need 3A if you're gonna hold that kind of stuff. Otherwise, you have to play retake, and you could play 3B, but at that point, retaking A is just really difficult. So you feel like, and I think most teams are trending this way. Just playing 3A is just the safer thing to do. It's more well-rounded. The guys on B just have to commit to something and get information early, not try and like necessarily hold the side, but maybe get a pick or something and fall back, or just get information and fall back. But yeah, the teleporters change things a lot, and they allow you to be able to rotate very quickly to B, whereas to A, you can't really do it as much because the shower teleport is kind of disconnected from the site, whereas
Right.
the hookah teleport is pretty close. It's fairly connected. So it's easier rotation wise to do that. And I think that's something that I agree 100 Thieves should have, Sentinel should have abused. But props to 100 Thieves for like, they're finding the weakness in a lot of these teams and abusing it.
You said you felt you should have 3-0'd this squad. Where
Mhm.
did this game on Bind go wrong for you?
Well, like what we just talked about, and what I previously mentioned was the game plan thing. I think our game plan strayed away too much from what we had practiced. And if you watch the start of the game, the first I would say 5-ish rounds, 6 rounds, it's not how we normally play bind, and that was our mistake. And it cost it. It ended up being 13-11. And if we just sewn up those first few gun rounds, this game could have easily been our way. Um, you know, I think it was we made a mistake game plan wise and on bind in particular. Whereas the other maps, I think maybe some other mistakes came into play, but in this map in particular, I think we had a very bad game plan.
Yeah, Bind looked very difficult. It was also like in the series, it kind of felt like split. Okay, you guys are supposed to win that. 100 Thieves is kind of supposed to win Binds. They seemed super favored on that map. They looked amazing. Had an answer for absolutely everything. But obviously that losing that split, that seemed to be what really was the big problem for you guys. Is there anything different you change? Because obviously you're running Sky in this finals on Binds, and is that something that you would definitely be like, actually we didn't like this? Was it kind of an on the fly thing?
No, it's something we practiced and we were comfortable with it. It's just Sky and Silver are just they're interchangeable, but how you use them is slightly different. We can still run most of our strats with either one, or pretty much all of our strats with with either character.
Okay.
It's just how you go about it may be a little different.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the development there. Um, Right.
I wanted to
It's
ask Sean and Dan if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
you guys got the opportunity to cast this final. You start with an overtime. Second game goes 13-11. Like, what were you guys most pumped about? Because the cast was incredible. I was feeding off your energy. Like this was like the greatest series in Valorant history in my eyes.
I mean, we just watched this, like what happened on Split and then what happened on Bind, and I was just thinking, like while I was casting with Dan, and we even said it. We're like, dude, this is O2, but we feel like this is gonna go 5 maps, man. Like I feel like those maps could have gone TSM's favor. Like a couple of things just didn't go their way. If they're mentally in it still, then like this is going the distance, man. Like this is gonna be probably a 3-0 right now. So buckle in. Like that's all we were saying behind the scenes is like this shit is wild. Like this is so close.
Yeah, it
Hey,
was kind of the perfect combo of teams because it's just like the clutch factor was definitely there for both teams. It's proven for TSM. 100 Thieves have been proving it every game. And so it's like there's not really a way that you could separate either team and be like, oh, well, this team's a little bit better at that, or this team has more of this. It really felt like, especially given the statistics, if you look at all the stats, it just works. It works out into this like unknown fifth map, which we should get. And so, yeah, that was just perfect. It's like exactly what we wanted.
And then we
Hayes,
choked.
who was most hyped for you guys coming into this match? Like, what were the comms like? Because clearly against Envy, you guys were feeling really confident, talking a little trash before the matchup. Was it that same vibes coming into this series?
And I'm actually going to have to pause you again before you answer that, Hayes, because we've got to say goodbye to Sean. Got to respect he's got a hard out at noon
Yeah,
here. Sean, thanks so much for coming on, man, for this like 2 hour sort of decompression session after
of
the
course.
first strike finals. It's awesome to have you on.
You crushed
Yeah.
it.
Thanks, guys. Oh, before I leave, I just want to say, everyone in chat, all you commenters, shut the fuck up and stop giving hate shit. It's not excuses. This is what a competitor does after they lose a match. The things that sit and resonate in their memories are the negative moments. He's not going to remember all the things that went
Yes, sir.
right. So of course he's going to talk about what went wrong. It's not an excuse. It's how you get better. Shut up. Appreciate the fact that someone like Hayes is willing to come on a show like this and give you this. Otherwise, you might not get it in the future. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. Peace out.
Cheers,
Love you,
Joy.
John.
Nice. The mic drop. Let's go. Hell yeah. All right. Thanks so much to Sean for coming on, and it's so awesome to have him back on again. And right, I guess we can pick up where we left off. We'll get a little Broman image in there
I like
for him,
that.
so he stays on spiritually on the show whilst we close things out. And just checking in with you guys. You guys have time to close out this finals.
What was the question you asked, Puck? I
Yeah,
don't
so
remember.
so it was
Oh,
it
yeah.
was just calm. So I wanted to know like vibes and like in
Oh,
game
yeah.
after that game one loss. Like what's the response? What are you guys like on the mics?
Yeah, I think our energy definitely wasn't as high at the start of the match for sure. For whatever reason, we have shown in the past that we can come into a match very cold. We can get one round out of 14 and then win the BO3. But we just, for some reason, we start cold. And
Okay.
so whenever it happened, we kind of just expected it. We were like, okay, it's whatever, dude. We'll pick it
Yeah.
up. We'll win second map, not a big deal. And then the comms they slowly improved. They got better. When we were down 0-2, you got to keep the spirits up. No one's happy that you've lost 2 maps that you feel like you should have won on both. And then so it's funny. We're down 0-2. Me and Yassine started cracking jokes as soon as it ended. We're we're in TeamSpeak and we're just like, guys, listen. Imagine the storyline. 3-0 comeback. Just think about it. We did this on purpose. Like we lost 2 maps to create the story, and we were just like we're trying to get everyone happy and laughing, and we're just we're just trying to say whatever we can to keep the spirits up. Yeah,
Is
we
it always
weren't too depressed.
Sobrosa saying that, or is it you normally stepping in and making people chuckle? Who does that on the regular basis for the squad?
I'd say Yassine is Sabrosa is number 1. Yeah, he's the jokester of the group for sure. If we're winning, I'd say Wardell is up there with them. They're a power couple whenever we're winning. Okay, they feed off each other and they just start saying crazy stuff. They're yelling, making noises. It's really funny. But yeah, I would say Yassine is like the emotional rock of the team for sure.
I was thinking Dwayne Johnson. In the Overwatch League, we would often do listen-ins and comps. Are you nervous that that might be a thing in 2021, where the production can now mic you up to the audience?
Oh God, there was actually a moment in the match, or it wasn't in the match. I think it was as it was starting or something like that. And I'm like, the admins are in our team speak, and we were saying some crazy stuff. And we're I just remember I said, I hope to God they aren't recording this. And then the admin unmuted and goes, it is not live, don't worry, but we are recording. And I was
Okay.
like, oh God.
Tweet the
dude."
VODs. Tweet the VODs.
I'm like, please do not let this leak. Whatever you do. I am petrified. I am petrified of listen-ins.
We'll give you like a little blinky red light so you know you're on air. You can be super proper and really respectful and get all the sponsors.
Oh, God, dude. That is a nightmare, man. I'm gonna have PTSD if there's a blinking red light and I see it. I'm just gonna freeze.
Right.
I'm not gonna be able to perform.
Us casters have that same problem, especially with remote productions. I now just mute everything, as you saw on tonight's call. It's like I just got to put it on lockdown. It's like I can't take the risk here. Dan, jumping back into the games, though, we talked a little bit about Split. We talked about Bind. Ascent was another one, Hayes, where it was just the pistol rounds started off wrong for you guys. It looks like you lost both pistols again in this one. Is there anything in particular that was happening in those pistols? Or was it just like a really strong fragger from 100 Thieves that was an issue? What was going down?
Pistols are a problem for us against every team. So that's our biggest issue. We can't win pistols. Sometimes we feel like the strategy was good. We're in position to win the round and then we choke. And then sometimes our strategy is terrible. And then we get in position to win the round through making a lot of really good decisions. But because we started from behind, we have low HP or something, we just end up losing. I mean, sometimes it's just bad decisions that we make. Dude, everything's wrong with pistols. I don't know, man. I wish I could figure it out. It's so frustrating.
It's such a weird one because it feels like there shouldn't be too much that you can even change, right? It kind of feels like that. So I don't know. You guys obviously, because considering how big pistols are in every attack FPS, like it's surely like you must have been. I'm sure you've all thought about this, right? And had many discussions about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've definitely had some back and forth in the team speak over the last few months over our pistol rounds. Every tournament we play, we always make it so hard for us. When we win, we lose, or when we win a tournament, we always look back at our pistols and we're like, we lost every single pistol. How did we? And like every game's 13-11, or like we're in OT. We're like, dude, if we just win one pistol, we could, our lives, no stress, no stress, no anxiety. Like it'd be perfect. We'd have so much fun. But, and we try to come up with solutions. We just can't.
I saw someone in the chat say they wish they had a 5.7 like pistol and that they just hate the classic and they hate the ghost. It seems like Nitro was the one guy that was just always buying the ghost. Have you guys ever tried running 5 ghost? Like, do you shoot better with that one?
We at the start of like in beta and when the game first came out, we played almost exclusively 5 ghost on pistol round, and admittedly, we were a little better. I have to say, we won more pistols back then. But I don't think it was because we were running 5 ghosts. I think it was because everyone in the game was running 5 ghosts. And since our aim was typically, like, we feel like our aim was better, we were winning those rounds more often. But now that people transition to using classic and utility more and they have armor, you don't get that one-shot kill.
Right.
So, yeah, it's much harder for us to win pistols because of that. But, yeah, man, we could try 5 ghosts. I mean,
Taylor, hire me as a part-time coach. I'm here just to theory craft with you guys. Let's try it out.
Honestly, hold on. Here's the solution. I got it. I'm just gonna drop Yassine a Deagle every pistol round.
There we go.
Armor. He has Deagle armor on Raze.
Raid bots.
I think it's
I like that.
The play.
I always wondered if I would imagine Tens must do this. I'm sure that he does, but just like the sheriff with the overheal must be like so good for a player like that. But what about like a pistol composition, 5 duelists or something? I don't know, just like specifically a comp just only designed to win pistols, and you just figure it out for the rest of the rounds.
Dude, we've thought about that.
You put
You should.
Yes.
Oh god.
We put in thought about this because if you run Sage Reyna in particular, those two are amazing on pistol rounds.
Oh.
It would be very strong, and we could win pistols, and maybe we snowball off that. You never know.
I like this. I like
Dude,
this, Dan. Breaking
wasn't-
the game.
I think that reminds me on this map actually, wasn't there in the pistol like Hiko double shock darted Asuna at the beginning of the round, so you didn't have your most important agent on the pistol? Wasn't that in this game? What was that? Am I thinking of a different
I don't remember.
game? I don't know. Either way, you guys got kind of wrecked on those pistols.
When Cutler shock darted.
Was it Cutler?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think you're thinking about the Envy game when Caboose
okay.
on Ascent was running into A and he got double shock darted and died.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
There's a lot of
That makes more
Valorant over the last few days, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm just amazed that you woke up at 9 a.m. to do this show today, Dan. Like, aren't you exhausted from the weekend?
Oh, I've been up longer than that, my friend. Yeah, absolutely. But it's all worth it, man. Got to put the show together, and I'm super excited that we had such good guests as well. Speaking of which, I do want to ask you guys: are you good to go another 15 minutes to close this one out?
Yeah, let's open it up.
I know we're kind of going off the script here.
Let's go.
I'm good for whatever, man. I got nothing to do today.
We got 1K viewers. We got a finalist here, one of the goats of Valorant here in North America, Hazed. It's gonna be a good day, Dan.
Well, I'm blushing.
All right. Well, with regards to like Ascent, do you have any other thoughts, Hazed, in terms of this Ascent matchup and just in general Ascent? Because for me, as I'm like looking back on this entire series, actually, because when you're in the moment, everything feels different. But now that I'm looking back on it, and with the stats that Sean mentioned and laid out so nicely for us, it is kind of insane actually. Like you guys actually were ahead, generally speaking, and I can kind of see that it when we were casting the game, it felt like 100 Thieves. I was like, what can you do against 100 Thieves? They're just like winning these rounds. But it's harder to see that they had all of these crazy disadvantages, and all of the timings went their way. There's all these like weird clutches and late round scenarios. But ultimately, like you guys were kind of winning though.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of emotional weight behind what happens in rounds. And when your team is consistently winning from behind, winning clutches, that carries a heavy emotional burden on both teams. And for us, obviously, it's a negative, but for them, it's a positive because you get hype on those kind of moments, so it's good. But for us, we're like, wow, we should have won this round. That's that sucks. So yeah, from a viewer perspective, like when you're seeing a lot of clutches, you'll just automatically that kind of feeling seeps in your mind that they're winning, just because they're winning the clutches. But when you look at it stats wise, I mean, we should have won most of those rounds. We didn't play right.
Do you want to run it back? Do you want another series against them like this month? Will you guys be playing in the JBL Quantum Cup? The chat needs to know, Hayes.
I don't know. Am I?
Yeah, well, you're not on this site, so you probably shouldn't say anything yet. Nothing on Wikipedia. Only 100 Thieves.
I will not confirm or deny our involvement in the JBL Cup.
But who would you rather face? Let's just go to that. Would you rather face 100 Thieves or would you rather face Sentinels? If you could guarantee a matchup.
TSM tweeted it. Never mind. So yeah, we are playing it.
Nice.
I would like to have a run back with Sentinels, but I mean that's just because of the rivalry. But dude, I mean when we put that series against 100 Thieves, it was only 4 maps, but the maps were super close. It's fun, dude. I like playing those kinds of matches. Even if I lose, it's still fun because it's so high pressure that like it's really testing you.
Right.
Dude, yeah, I would say Sentinels just for the rivalry, but I'd gladly play either one.
Admins, make both of them happen just for me, please. Put them in the same group. I don't care.
There's gonna be some pretty hype show matches, maybe down the line, maybe. Dude, I feel like we have to maybe do like a TSM Sentinels show match because dude, we have so few tournaments. And you guys still haven't played. Damn it!
Yeah,
we got denied. We got pipped at the post, as they say, and you guys almost made it in the finals, but not quite. So we have to force the action at this point. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I think we gotta open this up to chat here, Dan, if you're down to do a little Ask Us Anything, because we have so many awesome people. I want to give a shout out again. Over 1,000 people for the first time live on the show, not to mention everyone who will be watching this or listening to the podcast later. Thank you guys. If you haven't already, hit that follow button. But this is something Dan and I like to do on almost every episode, where we open it up to the community and let you guys talk with the biggest names in the game.
Here it comes.
And keep it kind here, guys. We did such a good job in the Valorant chat and all the messages to the casters. Let's keep it positive here. Here we go.
Keep it positive. How dare you?
Okay, so this first one is from Briskio. How much do you think 100 Thieves anti-stratted you guys for the finals? What makes 100 T such a different team to play against?
I don't think they particularly anti-stratted us. I don't think that is as pervasive as people think within the pro scene. I think when it comes to trying to find counters for a team, it's not really like fully countering the way, like a way a team plays. I think it's more like you look for a tendency that someone has and you try to like prey on that tendency. So like if someone's leaning, like if something happens on one side of the map and you see that they shift slightly, and when something doesn't happen on that side of the map, they don't shift. So you can kind of gauge where they're going to be without having to see them. That's the kind of stuff I think pro players are looking for. And I would assume that Steel does that stuff. I mean, I think most teams do that stuff. Steel, I think, is better at it than most people, to be fair. He's, obviously a great IGO, knows how to abuse teams. But I don't think it's as in-depth as people probably think it is. But yeah, and then the second half of it was how difficult were they to play against, or what was that?
Yeah, what makes them different from other teams when you play against them?
What makes them different is the way they lurk. They have true lurkers, and Hiko and Steel. It is very, very, very difficult to flank them because there's always someone there. And against a lot of these, even some of these other pro teams, you can catch their flanks open. Whereas, dude, you just know 100 Thieves has flanks locked. You just can't do it. And that allows their entries to be very comfortable with how they're attacking bomb sites. They know that they don't have to worry about their back ever. Yeah, I would say the way that they lurk is probably the most frustrating thing.
I like that. Dan, you got another one?
No, I was just gonna say, I definitely felt that. Like looking at these games, that was part of the X factor to this team, 100%. Every time I saw them playing against teams, that was like the main point of struggle for people to deal with, like consistently. So I definitely see that. I actually have a quick question for you because we didn't actually look at the Haven VOD. Is there anything from Haven that for you was a takeaway? Because from our perspective, from my perspective, it looked like you guys on like going into that second half, there was like a point in which it looked like confidence had actually been lost. Like almost like there was this element like you weren't confident to take the fights or to put the aggression on. Was that something that you were feeling, or am I just kind of projecting that onto the situation there?
Yeah, that was just I think some frustration had built up to that point and it was starting to show. Yeah, I mean, myself in particular, I wasn't very happy with the way we were playing. I thought we were playing, like I mentioned earlier, I thought we were playing timid. And I thought it really showed on Haven that we weren't. It was a mixture of like bad communication, and I think that's because of the frustration that had built up, and then also just and then us playing timid. It's a bad combination, man. And yeah, I think it's we're all human. It's gonna you can only take so much up to so much for so long, and it's gonna boil over. And I think it boiled over on Haven.
I felt bad, Dan. I didn't want to keep burying him in negativity of the final.
I know, man. And I just want to, say thank you for being such a good sport and actually coming on to like talk about this stuff because I honestly don't know, like having been someone that competes and has competed, and it doesn't feel good to lose anything at any point in any situation. So we really appreciate that, and just as Sean said, big respect for coming on, man. It's awesome that you're doing this. I think as well for the
Appreciate it.
community, you're doing a lot of service for the fans who really want to know what's going on and in the minds of the pros. And with that said, I like this question from Floating Buses, which is
Okay.
also a pretty cool name. Do you think increasing the agents will increase the variance to the point where the cost to benefit of spending time anti-stratting multiple compositions will actually not really be worth it?
Yes, that is a great question. Yeah, I do think so because I think, well, I'm not 100% certain. I don't know if anyone knows. But I would like to see Riot have a pick ban process in the future, personally. And I
Yeah.
think if you introduce a pick ban process, it completely breaks a lot of the prep that you have. So teams will have multiple comps set up that they can, you have these pre-designed strats that are used on that can be used on different comps, and then you just play the draft, and then you play your game. But it's going to be really hard to anti-strat, teams that like to be aggressive and play off intuition if there's a pick ban process, because then famously, like a team like OG from Dota is a team that's just like so intuitive in their play, and it feels like when you watch them, you don't know what the hell they're going to do because they almost don't know what they're going to do. That's what it feels like. So I think moving forward, when there's enough agents, and I'm hoping they introduce a pick ban, it will be too hard, yeah, to counter strat.
I got
Yeah,
a
that's something.
question from Ryonya. Sorry to cut you off there. Does Myth call you daddy?
Yes, he does. Okay, can I just say the daddy thing,
It's weird, right?
kind of weird.
Kind of
Like,
weird.
Man, I feel like I'm not
like,
alone.
I don't know, man.
I'm with
I
you
just
guys.
I'm not
Yeah.
too comfortable with it.
I prefer Papa.
I like, dude. Me too. I like Papa. That seems more playful.
Beard oil or beard balm, says the chat. Important questions are
Oh,
coming up.
okay. So yeah, that. So I have a balm right here, actually, on my desk. But I don't. I've never used beard oil, and well, I used it once, but I stopped because I don't like the way it. I don't like that oily feel. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just not me.
greasy. Not good.
Yeah, it's greasy, and I don't
That
like
one's for you, Habibi. This next one is for me. Cloud9, still a top 5 teams. I assume Cloud9 Blue
it.
here. There's a lot of people asking about Cloud9.
No, they are not a top 5 team. They've kind of just fallen apart, man. Watching them play, they don't feel very inspired in the way they're playing. It feels like they're just hoping for tens to get kills. Whereas when I watch them, it doesn't feel like they're trying to set themselves up as a team to succeed, and that's a big problem. Whether or not that's what's actually happening, I don't know. That's just what it looks like from the outside. But they're definitely, for me, not a top 5 team. Which is, I mean, it's sad because they were owning. I mean, they won the qualifier and they were playing really well. So I don't know, or was it the pre-qualifier? I don't remember what they won. They won
Right.
something, and they were playing super well, and they were fun to watch. Yeah, they've fallen apart, man.
Yeah, that was a shock. That was a shock. Everybody had them pegged for the top 8 for sure. And
Oh yeah.
they just kind of fell just a little bit too short there. That's at the wrong time. Yeah, I mean, hopefully they can rebuild. That actually does lead into another question that I have, which is the fact that what is kind of next, because in terms of having time to rebuild or having time to prepare for something, what is the next thing that you guys are thinking about? Because I'm not actually aware that there's a tournament besides that the calendar that got announced. Is there something around the corner otherwise? I don't
The
know that there is.
Quantum Cup next weekend, I think.
Oh,
is
of course, yeah.
closest. But that might be the last that we have in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what's next for us is really just trying to. I mean, we're gonna sit down and talk about the match again, I'm sure, and what we need to fix. Because it was only a brief talk that we had, and maybe start exploring other options as far as agents. See if there's anything we want to try. that we are happy with the triple duelist, but that doesn't mean we need to become complacent with it. We can maybe create some new stuff with that. And I don't think it actually hurts to have multiple comps too for the same map. A team could study one comp and then you hit them with a different one in the match and they don't know what to do. So I think it's definitely something teams should do. You should have multiple comps for every map. I mean, you're a professional, you're getting paid, like put in the time. You can do it. And that's something we need to do. So I think we're probably gonna look at comps and see what's best for us.
Yes Way Station asked, what does Cutler bring as the in-game leader instead of Sarosa and yourself who have done it in the past?
Yeah, so I think Yassine and I are much more aggressive, kind of. We play more off the cuff than Cutler does. Cutler is much more of a calming presence as a leader. He's like, it's very default oriented. He likes to play slower and let things work out. Whereas, me and Yassine were like, let's just rush them. Like they're playing stupid,
man.
Yeah, let's just like run at them, go. And I think that's the main difference. I think it's right now it's a good mix having Cutler as the in-game leader and then Yassine and I both as kind of like the second IGLs, you could say. We're just we'll see an opening and we comment and we go and we commit. I think that's really important.
That's such a nice strength that you have 3 capable in-game leaders all able to chime in depending on the map and how things are playing out. Dan, we got so many questions here in the chat. I'll let you ask the next few.
So we have one from Divine SL who's asking a question about what do you think about having more than just a 5-man roster for this game? So that you have some subs, people that can specialize in certain agents and so on and so forth. Is there a future in this game that exists that has teams doing that works?
Yeah, so my initial thoughts is yes, you could. In particular, agents like Sova that are, have a billion shock dart lineups per map, with like double shocks and all this crazy stuff you can do. I think you could have specialists. I don't know. It just depends on how many agents come out and how many agents have that kind of variability in their utility. But I would say my initial thought is yes. I think you could have specialists. You could have 6 or 7 man rosters.
I think you could. I think overall it's going to bring down your level of play. I think having a consistent group of 5 players is going to be best. And that's just seen through trial and error of other esports. But if I think about the most successful Overwatch League teams, it was probably the guys that didn't need to make a lot of swaps. They could if they wanted to pull off a unique strategy, but only for map 3 in a best of 5, for example. It wasn't constantly rotating map after map after map. I think you need just to build that foundation.
Yeah.
Honey52 asks, what role of agents would you like to see come out next?
What role?
Yeah.
Please no duelists. Jesus Christ. I get enough instant lock duelists in my pug games. I don't need more. Probably maybe another initiator type of character. I would like to see a character that maybe has like utility that interacts with enemy utility in some way. Maybe like cancel a smoke or like cancel a molly, something like cancel a shock dart or a recon dart. Something like that. Some kind of character that cancels utility would be kind of cool.
I like that idea. I didn't even think about that, Hazed. You're a genius.
To be fair, that was not my idea. Okay.
Well,
that was,
you reused it really well. You steal from others, you take the best on the planet, and you make it your own. I like that.
But I will admit it was not my idea. Okay? It was TSM Tailored. Go follow him on Twitter.
We've had him on the show, a regular here on Immortal Minds.
Absolutely, yeah. It is an interesting concept. Me and Sean was talking about that a long time ago, and it's because you have this dynamic that exists in Counter-Strike where you can extinguish a Molotov with a smoke. So you can make that choice to burn that smoke specifically because you think you get more value of messing with what they're trying to do. And it's an interesting dynamic because I feel like that could open the floodgates pretty heavily, and it could break a lot of things because there's so many different. So I imagine it, right? They've probably thought about that kind of thing, but maybe it would have to be super specific in how it actually works. Yeah, yeah. If you can have like an agent that can just get rid of smokes,
Yeah,
or cancel, or I don't know exactly what it would be. When Sage was was a part of every composition, I was like, oh, it makes sense that the Molotov from Hot Hands, Phoenix can like melt
that's
the
what I
ice or
said.
something like that, like. And
I
then I'm like,
agree.
and then we're getting into this thing of like elements. Let's just like have like
Hmm.
one element count as the other element, and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. And maybe yeah, you can just go down the rabbit hole with that kind of stuff. But we'll see what they have in plan, because to my mind, it's actually already quite insane that we have so many agents in the game, and they all kind
Mhm.
of work pretty well together, and they're all very different from one another. So I can't imagine like the kind of just crazy awesome design team Riot has for all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
They've been
Yeah, looking
working on
forward
it
to it.
behind the scenes for years and years and years. I think you'll see the slow rollout has already been thought out of all the possible issues before agents get put into the game. I saw a great question asking, what region are you most excited to play? Because we mentioned that Japan and Korea and Europe all have champions, but what do they do? 12 different regions, I believe, for First Strike, or 11 different
Yeah.
regions here. Who are you most pumped to face off against once all this COVID stuff goes away and we can get to maybe a land for a major, or definitely the end of the year event?
Yeah, for me, it's the Korean team Vision Strikers. They have a crazy win streak, as we mentioned earlier. I like the way they play, man. They have such a great understanding of how this game works, and they're creative, and they they have sick aim. So yeah, I want to play against Vision Strikers pretty bad.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be your answer. You want to be the one
Mhm.
to take that shiny record and just tarnish it.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
give me
yeah,
the
the
Well,
streak
destroyer.
break.
hi, welcome to North America. This is how we do it.
Yeah, that would be a pretty awesome. Oh, I just can't wait for that matchup to happen. Um, right. So yes, this is actually a great question, because when we had Angel on, he ran a little narrative about the disparities of agent choices between this region and Europe. And also when we had Scream on, he was also talking about that as well. Scream was super surprised that Phoenix is being used so much in North America, because in Europe that people couldn't really get into kind of vibe in the same, and be as effective as it is in NA. And similarly, we get this question from Avenger129 who says, do you see Reyna as a super viable agent? NA seems to run her much more than other regions who prefer more utility-based duelists.
Yeah, I think Reyna is very viable. You got to think about how the utility is used in certain scenarios, and how not only you have to use it, but they have to react to it. So, like, a good example I give is, let's say you're on a scent, your T side, their CT side, and you're hitting the A bomb site. Okay, and they're crossfired on each side. Okay, if you're a Phoenix and you flash around the corner, they can turn from the flash, right? They could play a setup where one's turned and one isn't.
Hmm.
So technically, you could just get killed, and then one guy's not blind, and you're stuck in a crossfire. You lose the round, right? But if you're Reyna and you flash, they can't turn from it. They have to commit to shooting it, or they die. So then you know where they're both at. So what you're doing when you play Phoenix or Reyna interchangeably, and this is why having a lot of agents is really scary from a strategical standpoint, is that you have to change the way you play against certain agents. And so teams can't get comfortable. If we're playing Phoenix a lot, they can run that setup. And then if we switch to Reyna, they have to think about that. Like, oh, we can't run that anymore, even though it works against every other team. So I think they're interchangeable. I don't think it particularly matters which one you play. Phoenix does have, in my opinion, more utility, but Reyna is a character that is incredibly powerful in the right hands. I mean, we've seen it with players like Caboose. Um, Tins even did it as an opper at one point. I mean, I think Yassine's an incredible Reyna when he gets to play it. It's a character that can just take over the game, and if you give your teammate space to do it, and you layer utility that Reyna doesn't have to help him get control of the map, it becomes a very powerful agent for sure.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with that. I think Asuna as well, another name to add to the list, had a great performance here in First Strike, North America with Reyna. Um,
Can we show his tweet? Yeah, this blew me
There you
away
go.
because this is coming from a 17-year-old. And when I was a 17-year-old, I was an asshole shit talker. I did not think about jumping out and taking a rocket for my team. When you're the entry, you can falter, relentless aggression. I am given duelist to make sure my boomers do not die to rockets. I will gladly give up my life and watch them clutch. Hazed, this
Mhm.
guy is a freak. We've seen him in game. He was very tough for you guys to play against. He had some fantastic numbers throughout First Strike. It seems like he's also got a great head on his shoulders. How many young players are you seeing in this new title that you think are of this level, or you would be willing to maybe put onto a pro roster and trust that he'll be able to think like the rest of the team and I guess bring that maturity and see eventual success in the game?
Yeah, scouting talent's really difficult. It's not always, so clear cut that they're gonna be cut out for it. It's out there for sure. Asuna was one that I think, I briefly saw it in Counter Strike. I played with them a couple times in FPLC, or maybe it's Rank G. I don't remember, but um, I was on a few teams with and against him, and he was really talented. And he seemed like a good kid. He had he was nice and he calmed well. Um, yeah, he's one of those guys that, unfortunately, in a scene that's so saturated, you don't really get a lot of shots. You don't get, you're not really going to get that chance to prove yourself. So um, I think that's what's great about having a new game come out, is that, you have an opportunity to be one of the, the front runners and really show that you got what it takes. They're out there, trust me. I couldn't, off the top of my head, it's hard to name people, but I think maybe one that comes to mind that a lot of people probably didn't expect was Dicey, also on the same team, and then a Proto who's on LG has been
Yeah.
Oh,
playing
he's so good.
really well. He's a player from Counter Strike who he was at the semi-pro level for years and never really made it to pro level, but in this game, it's fitting him really well, and he's really popping off. So, the players are out there for sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Sorry.
so we've got 10 more minutes until I gotta go. So that'll be I'll close out. So we've got 10 more minutes for questions. So if you guys make sure to throw those in the chat so we can get some of the good ones in. I had a really good question. And oh yeah, so we were talking about this briefly. It's a shame that Sean's gone because I know he had some thoughts and opinions on this. But so we're going to be seeing, as this game grows, I'm sure, a lot of CS players, as you just mentioned, coming across to Valorant as the scene becomes, more and more developed. And as you say, there's a lot of players that are very good in CS that don't necessarily have anywhere to go, and it makes a lot of sense to make the switch. We've seen a lot of CS players having a lot of success, yourself included. Nitro just switched over, probably the highest profile switch that we've seen from CS, doing super well. Steel as well. So it seems like they're leading the way, and more will follow. But are they going to be any good at the game? Because this is, as you mentioned, this is a very strategical game, and a lot of people that play CS, a lot of the very good players, got there just with their mechanics, or mostly with their mechanics.
Mhm. Yeah, I think if they're going to succeed, they really have to drop the notion that just because you were good in Counter Strike means you're going to be good in Valorant. They are not the same game. The way they play is different, and you cannot sit here and complain that something happened in this game to you that wouldn't happen in Counter Strike. You know, you have to come up with a fresh mindset and really try and like dedicate yourself to the game. I've played with some players that have switched over or have considered switching over that they just can't handle it. Something happens in the game and they're like, "Oh, this game's so stupid. Why does anyone play this?" And I'm just like, "Dude, this isn't Counter Strike. Stop complaining."
Right.
And so I think that is something they have to drop if they're going to make the switch. And I think if they can drop the ego in that respect, then I think anyone from Pro Counter Strike could do it, because they've already proven they can play at a high level in an FPS game. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about headshotting people. You know what I mean? If you can hit headshots, you can play. So yeah, I think they could make the switch.
Following on the same vein, we had Roy 52098 in the chat who asked, how do you make it to a pro level, like scrimming and stuff? Do you have to be a streamer to go pro? Like, what is that path for anyone who is 17, 15, feels like they have the chance to make it on a pro team, but don't know the route?
It's different for everyone, but the one thing that's in common for every pro player is how hard people work. You know, like we put in a ton of hours. I mean, it's just a lot. It's an overwhelming amount. You know, I think in just Counter-Strike alone, I was approaching both from 1.6 and CS:GO combined around 35,000 hours, which is like roughly 4 or so years of my life, just playing a video game. So that, I mean, that's the kind of dedication you need to be, you know, moving forward. You got to think about that. But ultimately, how you should like maybe practice is try it. For me, it's like a value system. It's league matches first. That's you want to play as many high pressure situations as you can,
Okay.
bar none. And then past that is scrims. If you can't play matches, play scrims. Okay, find a team. It doesn't matter if it's friends or not. Find someone to play with consistently. And then beyond that, play pugs. If you can't league or scrim, play pugs. And then if you can't do any of those, or you have something to do in between, which I call filler, you could do like aim labs. In Counter-Strike, we used to deathmatch in between queues, do VOD review of teams, try and find out what the best teams and best players are doing, especially the players that play agents you play. That is like a shortcut. I mean, especially if you're a Sova player, just watch any top Sova. You'll learn so much. I mean, that's a shortcut. You don't got to go into a server and spend hours finding lineups.
Right.
Yeah.
So not
I mean,
just making videos for you guys. It's like go
Exactly.
hop on YouTube, spend the 30 minutes.
yeah, there's so many resources out there for you to take these shortcuts to get better.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it, when you think about it? What like back in the old days, where it's kind of like hard to get information on stuff. I remember when I was playing tournaments where it was impossible to actually find any footage of like some of the players I was going to play, and you could hide. You know, people could fake nick, and they'd be playing on like a brand new account and stuff. They'd only have like a couple practice partners, and everything is so hidden. Everyone would keep it all tied to the chest. Now it's like everything's out there, so it's like it's kind of insane how much the old Isaac Newton quote, if I've seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. That's what you guys will get to do.
Dude, it's
Stand on
actually
our shoulders.
out there that G2 was streaming matches.
Yeah, that's insane.
With their comms?
That's how out there with comms. That is so out there.
Keems 1991 wants to know, how have you been so consistent as TSM? They gave 100 Thieves a close match, and you guys did it with triple duelist without running any sentinels. So it feels like you guys have been dominant through every meta of this game. How did you make the triple duelist work? And I guess what is the secret to you guys staying in the top 3 this entire time?
I mean, it's just sticking together and trusting that what we're doing is going to work, you know. I mean, every team has their problems for sure. You know, we've had our problems, but working through them is what makes the team better. And yeah, man, we try to stay ahead of the meta. I think that's also super important. We don't want to be a team that is a slave to it. We want to create the meta. So we're always going to be trying new stuff, even when people call us stupid for it. We don't care. We're going to try it, and we're going to prove that, you know, if we believe it works, we're going to prove that it does. So I think that's what's kind of made us very consistent.
All right, Chris, we've got time for one more question. Do you want the honors?
It's all yours, Dan.
Or Hayes, do you wanna ask
Can we do
yourself
it the
a
top
question?
5? Can we do the top
Let's
5,
do the
Hayes?
top- let's do the
That's
top
probably
five.
the most requested answer is, can we get Hazed personal? This is not TSM. This is not Dan or mine. This is just yours. If you were to come up with the top 5 teams, I'll let you do North America, or if you want to avoid that, you now have to answer worldwide.
Dude, really? Like, I have to say in order?
Top 5 in order.
Dude.
Counting down from number 5.
Okay, so the 5th best team in, you wanted North America?
Which one do you prefer? Yeah, let's start. NA. That was the one the chat was asking.
Dude, okay. I'm just gonna get flamed for anything I say, man. This is a catch-22.
Win-win. Think of all the 5 teams who are going to be super proud of your answer.
Okay, the fifth best team in North America is. Let me pull up a team list real quick just to make sure that I'm not capping here. All right, I don't want to cap on y'all.
No cap. I think the teams in A that were really missing from this were Andbox, Gen G,
Yeah.
Cloud9, but then mostly just the First Strike squads.
I think I want to say that, man, the fifth spot is so open. I'd say the fifth spot is T1. I think T1
Oh
is
wow.
fifth best team in North America right now.
Okay.
I think they kind of, before this tournament, I think everyone had reason to believe they weren't, top 5, maybe fringe top 10. But they have shown that their work ethic and their experience can bring results, and they look like a very well polished team right now. And they're only going to get better. So I'd have them at 5. At 4, God, this is going to be rough, dude. At 4,
We love you for it.
Dude, I can't say this. There's no win here. There's no win.
I feel like we put you through so much pain in this
Yeah.
episode. I already feel bad right now.
Yeah, you can just lump them all in together. I feel bad as well,
Oh,
Hazed.
I'll do it, dude. Okay, 4 will be. Dude, y'all are gonna hate me. I'm gonna put 4 as Sentinels. That's not because I dislike them, but because I'm not convinced with their consistency right now.
Okay.
We need to see them more. It's been a long time in between tournaments, so I want to see. I just want to see more of them. That's pretty much it. So I'll have them at 4 right now. Number 3, I will have Envy. I had them pegged as the best coming into the tournament. I thought they were number 1, and I still think they're an incredible team. But they have problems, and it needs to be addressed. So I'd have them at number 3. Number 2, go ahead, boys, get ready to clip champ this. I've got 100 Thieves at number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, they did just beat us in a final, and I do not care. Stay mad.
Stay mad.
They are number 2.
And the number 1 team in North America is
FaZe Clan. Didn't see that. I got you boys, huh?
That's good. I like that.
Nah, it's us. We're the best. Yeah. We just
Nice. I love
what I'm
it. It's honest. It's modest.
Hey,
Dude.
if you're looking at consistency and you're looking at total placings across the year, I think all the stats point to his answer being accurate there.
Dude, it's just like, I get it. Here's the thing. People are going to flame me because I rate ourselves higher than 100 Thieves, and they beat us in a BO3 and a BO5. I get it. But the BO5 was incredibly close, and our results throughout the year has been incredibly consistent. We have placed first a ton. We have always played at a high level. They're a team that has had up and downs. We don't know. It's just one tournament. I'm not going to say a team's better than me because they beat me in one tournament. I'm sorry, especially when it's that close. If it was convincing, if they smashed us like 13-5, 13-4, etc. on most maps, I'd be like, okay, like they're a better team. But I don't believe it. And I don't think the results show it either. I'm just being honest. Like people can say I have an ego for that, but I think I'm pretty reasonable.
I think that's also champion's mentality. So
yeah, I mean that's not it's not a winner's mentality. Oh, they beat us in a close game. There's better.
We also had, for the stats nerds out there as well, Sean dropped a lot of stats where you guys are ahead in like all of the stats. So there's definitely arguments. There's definitely a super close matchup, and there's some variance. And I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, that's the rub, man. That's the rub. We need more tournaments. We've got a small sample size, so I'm with you on that one. And I think that's a great place to close out the show. Absolutely. I'm definitely not going to put you through any more pain. No more clip moments for Hazed. No. No more Reddit moments for today, at least.
We're getting Hazed to 100K on social media, guys. If you haven't already, twitter.com, HazeCS. Go drop the follow. He's one of the favorites of ours here on the show. Haze, thanks for coming on. This is your second time, man.
Man, it's a pleasure. I always have fun doing these, man. Y'all are good guys.
We
Thank
appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just want to throw the respect. You just played a tournament. I can't imagine anyone who would ever come onto a show the day after a tournament. So that's just so amazing. So it's the pleasure is all ours. And also I think, a huge amount of props to the Immortal Minds team as well, kind of scrambling around first try, getting all of this done. And I think it's really cool to see a lot of the love, because we got a lot of engagement as well over first strike. So make sure to drop us a follow, guys. We're going to keep expanding the content and making it better. We got Luke as well, who is now our technical producer, our technical director, I should say, and he's helping us to step up our game as well. So lots more cool stuff to come out of all the Immortal Minds down the line. So to follow the socials, and also huge thanks to all of you who helped us, break the 1K milestone, all of the subs. There's so much awesome stuff happening, and we don't have a specific schedule for the content out of the rest of this year for the rest of December. So stay tuned on the socials for that. Also, we've got the Discord as well. We've got a really poppin' Discord community. Lots of people who want to play together as well as watch matches together and talk about the nerdy analytical stuff. So if you want to be surrounded by people like that, that's a good place to go as well, to make more friends in Valorant, which we can all use more of for our matchmaking shenanigans. But with that said, what are you guys up to? Do you want to kind of let the viewers know like what you're going to be working on? If you're going to be streaming, making some content, where can people find you in the coming days and weeks?
First Hazed. What are you working on?
Dude, I'm not doing nothing, man. I just got back to streaming. I mean, I'm not going to stream that often, but if you want to swing by, you can. It's twitch.tv/Hazed.
Probably sub to him.
Mainly just a meme lord on Twitter nowadays. That's what I do. Just follow me at HazeCS. I just meme, dude. I'm just trying to farm Keck W's.
He's got the anime avatar and everything these days. The boomers still hanging with the zoomers. I love to see it.
Doing my best, man. It's hard out here.
All right. For me, you guys can catch me. I'm doing the Gamer Hour every Tuesday, shooting out of Times Square, New York City, interviewing people like Arian Foster will be my next show. We're doing Madden on Wednesday, Call of Duty, Warzone. And unfortunately, that's been the reason Dan and I haven't been able to bring you Saturday broadcasts. We've been too busy as freelancers. Shout out to the whole esports community for the support through a rough year. 2020 turned out pretty darn good for us gamers, guys, and appreciate all the opportunities. But I love this stuff. I love watching the finals. I can't wait to go through and watch the other regions. We'll probably be streaming some of that later this week. I'm over on twitch.tv/Puckett.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna probably be laying low the next week or so. Actually, dial the energy down a little bit, and the only things that I could announce, I can't announce yet. So we'll keep it at that. But thank you again to everybody.
Spicy.
We will catch you on the next one. Stay put though. We'll be raiding Mame, so go give him some love, and we'll see you on the next episode of Immortal Minds.
Later, boys.